Hello, everyone. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Timeless Gamer Show, where the games and bodies may grow or update, but our gaming experiences will forever remain timeless. And the show is now live in Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And for all of our archived videos of previous episodes, you can still check them out by going to the YouTube channel of the Timeless Gamer Show. You can also check them out by going to to our website, which is timelessgamers.com. Or you can also listen to us talk. That's fine. Just go to all of the major streaming platforms out there by searching in the Timeless Gamers Show. We'll like to take this opportunity to give a shout out to our cohorts, BitMap Books and Streamyard, for allowing us to be their official affiliates, to Studio.ph, Shuffle Emporium, and Retromancy, and of course, Sega Mega Masters podcast and the RGCP Retro Gamers and Collectors of the Philippines. And previously on the Timeless Gamer Show, what so we discussed a few of our notable 16-bit Japanese no, not Japanese. Okay, so 16-bit role-playing games, particularly back on the Sega Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo. We had Sir Derek Ponai of Retro Gaming Times as our guest panelist on that particular show. And for all of you guys who are curious on what games that we tackled, you know what to do. For this episode, we are now going to talk about games that were so good for some reason they never got followed up with an official sequel. And joining us
Or if I
for
can interject, games that had one great launch game, or maybe one game in the middle of its franchise, but had nothing else good for it. Like, hey, first game was great. I can't wait for the sequel, and it sucks so bad that it tastes like donkey balls. But back to you, Joe.
that's it.
Okay.
So for the panel for tonight, we are being joined by Sergey DM.
Mhm.
Well, Juan De Marcos of 123 Go. The one hit boy wonder.
One
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, guys.
One hit boy wonder. All right, thank you for that, Sir
I
JDM,
just
and
thought
of
of that
course,
right now.
Banyaga native Sir Joel.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are. This is Joel Baclito, the Danyaging Native Facebook page, Twitch page, and Kick.com page, coming at you with one hit wonders galore. I love those one time hits that just never got a great sequel or just stood alone by itself. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. It is my topic, and we are going to be talking about it not just here on the podcast, but also in the chats. And for those of you in the recording, we'd love to hear your opinions too. So put in your ideas in our chats even after the show. We'll discuss them in detail. Back to you, Joe.
And of course, joining us once again for this episode. It's been a while since we had her on this show, Miss Hino Tura. Welcome back to the show, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I missed last week's episode. Every time that Joe invites me, I have some family affair on my outside and whatnot. So I'm really glad to be back here, and I missed hanging out with everyone. So again, thank you for having me. This is Atora. You can find my socials, Atora, Facebook, Twitter, IG, and my very, very inactive YouTube. So thank you.
All right, thanks for that, Hino. And of course, Sir Viraj of the Sega Mega Masters.
Good to be back. I won't be here too long this episode because of work commitments, but yeah, I'll be talking about one particular one-hit wonder. You can find me on the Sega Mega Masters channel on YouTube and Sega Genesis group on Facebook. But yeah, let's do this.
All right. Since we got already Sir Viraj on the screen, let's go to his first game.
The first and only game I'm going to be talking about, because there are loads of games, but I think this is the one-hit wonder that always stands out in my mind as a travesty it never got a sequel. and that's depends on how you pronounce it. It's called Ristar or Ristar on the Sega Mega Drive. Came out in 1995, so a late release for the system. When the system was on its twilight years, it was the end of the 16-bit era, and the Saturn was out in Japan when it came out. That obviously in the West, and obviously we had the PlayStation coming out that year, so new generation was starting. So we got a lot of these. This is like Sega sort of the last sort of hurrah, and they put out some really good bangers in '95. But this one is one that sadly never got a sequel. And I found that really baffling because it is such a well-crafted, quality game. It was Sega pushing this. Now, this intro sequence is the Japanese version. Okay, so there's two intro sequences: the Mega Drive Genesis version in Europe and USA, different. Obviously, it had a Game Gear port as well. So you could argue, well, actually, that is part. It's a watered-down port of the Mega Drive one, but it's still more or less the same game, missing a few levels maybe. But even on the Game Gear, it was an awesome game. Look at those colors. They really did pop. And it was Sega saying, well, one of the biggest things that people go on about Super Nintendo is, oh, we've got a lot more color. Well, Sega showed that we can give you, because it looks like a Super Nintendo game. Obviously, this is the Game Gear version playing here, but even we'll cut to the Sega one shortly. The colors look outstanding, and the pop and the special effects are outstanding. And it was Sega pushing the hardware to its limits. So that's fundamentally, obviously, as you can see, it's a very innovative platform game where you play as Ristar, a shooting star, and the story is he's after his, he's basically the evil tyrant Greedy has caused issues in the system, and he's got to try and rid him of all his monsters and whatever, and bring peace to the system. And obviously, he finds his dad towards the end. And obviously, that's the Western story is a bit different to the Japanese one, but we're going with the Western one for me, because that's the one I played and grew up with, or didn't grow up with. But there you have it. So it's a wonderful platform game. I think it's about seven stages long, and there's 2 acts in every stage. And it basically involves Ristar being able to go onto poles, and he's got an attack now where he can become a shooting star when he goes on one of those poles and swings around, grabs momentum. He can go through stages and take out enemies and fly up and glide down, and he can use his hands to headbutt enemies, and that's basically his main form of attack. And yeah, obviously, like I said, he can use his hands to grip and go up platforms and all sorts of things. So an innovative type of game before anything else came out. And this is long before Rayman, which is the other platform that I can really compare it to. And I see Rayman getting his sequels, but I don't see Ristar getting his sequels, which is unfortunate. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. Another thing I forgot to mention, I just want to mention it quickly before I forget. I just mentioned it when we were off camera. Is the soundtrack to this was developed by the great Tomoko Sasaki, who did the music for Nights into Dreams on Sega Saturn, which you might have heard me in the music episode go on about, giving it rave reviews. That's my favorite video game soundtrack. And she's a genius when it comes to FM sound. She also did World of Illusion on the Mega Drive before this. So a composer that knows how to use the Mega Drive sound technology to its best limits, as well as creating and crafting some really good soundtracks that actually match the level. The first level is Planet Flora, and it's like a green planet, so you have some lovely music that matches what you see there. And then you got like a water planet called Undertow next, and you have a more soothing soundtrack. You have one with a larger sort of like party pace when you get to the fire planet. So then you also have a sound planet, so you've got different musical instruments being used. So very musical game for sure when you play Ristar. But obviously doesn't have the energy that Sonic has, because obviously he's not running, is he? It's a slow pace sort of game in that regard. But he's fighting obviously a boss on this particular stage. Can we get the Mega Drive version up? Because we're looking at the Game Gear one. This is the Game Gear version. I wonder actually see if we can get the Mega Drive gameplay shown.
Are we? Hang on.
But surprisingly, though, it looks like the Game Gear
I don't
version
look like
is really does really look good compared to the Mega Drive version as well. In Philippine parlance, hindi pa huhuli. It looks like it's not it doesn't look like it's going to let itself be beaten
There you
by the
go.
Sega
There you go.
Genesis
That's the Mega
version.
Drive game.
Yeah,
There
by
you
the
go. So
Sega Genesis,
again,
Sega Mega Drive version. Yeah.
so you've got a background here. You have parallax scrolling a little bit in the background when you're moving there.
Hmm.
Again, a lot more color, use of color. Obviously, a better sprite with Restart. He's got these cute animations on his faces when he's standing there. But yeah, we've got some comments here in the comment
Yeah.
section.
Yeah.
What do you rate
Some.
Ristar on the Sega Mega Drive out of 10, Severa? Oof, I'll give it a solid 9 as a platformer for what it is. A solid 9. My only critique is I wish it was a bit longer. That's what I would say. And also, obviously, the show. Yeah, so yeah.
Well, they
The
were
Mega Drive.
probably hoping that it was the first game of a series because so it might be short. It might be the way that they kind of introduced the character,
I
and they
think
were hoping that more people would have bought it. But sad to say.
that design was meant to be Sonic the Hedgehog originally. It was meant to be a rabbit, if you remember. If you look at Naoto Oshima, who created Sonic, there were a number of prototypes, and one of them was a bunny that used his ears to pick up objects and throw them, and that didn't happen. It finally happened with Ristar, and sadly, it was like towards the end of the Mega Drive's lifespan, and it did show. It was a beautiful game. I'll tell you that. My cousin had this game, and I always loved watching him play. It's such a beautiful game, and playing it myself after was such a joy. Why didn't it have a sequel? I think that's the reason. That's the last part. If it's so great, why not have a sequel, right? What's the reasons?
Oh, and mention the fact, Sir Viraj, that you can actually play this in a lot of different Sega Genesis compilations nowadays.
Oh yeah, of course. So it's not Sega haven't been anti-consumers for this. Obviously, you can buy the original, play it on the Mega Drive. It was also available on the Sonic Mega Collection, or one of them on the Cube or the Mega Drive. Well, I can't remember, but you unlock it when you beat enough games or something. So it's actually included on PlayStation and GameCube. So it was re-released then, and of course on the Mega Drive Mini 2 it was put on there. But one thing I will say about the Mega Drive Mini 2 version, I'm talking about because it's not on the Japanese one, only on the European and Genesis Mini 2. They sort of messed up the sound emulation. I found that's something I've noticed. But it's also available on. I think they had the at Game Sega Mega Drive Minis as well. So this was also with that. So you get that, but again, it's had several re-releases, and it's quite easy to obtain this game, to be fair. And it's not one of those really super expensive Mega Drive games that are out there if you are a Mega Drive collector. So it's actually quite fair in that regard to get hold of if you're playing original hardware. Either way, you can always get an EverDrive cart, and there's so many ways you can play this game. But again, it's been re-released a number of times on various Mega Drive collections. I think it's on the Sega Mega Drive Collection. Oh, and Switch Online as well. So there you go. So lots of things that we can play this game on. So easy to get access to this game, guys. And if it's a game you haven't played, what are you waiting for? You should play it, because it's it's like towards the last act of the Mega Drive. It was probably one of the best games of 1995 that they came out with. And I think platformers are always seen as cutesy and for kids. And this is a young person's game, but I think a lot of adults will have a lot of fun playing with this game because it's beautiful.
Something I take objection with that, Viraj, because of the fact that a lot of kiddie games, as they are designated, are enjoyable even by adults. I personally love kiddie books, kiddie games, kiddie shows. They're still enjoyable,
they're
as for
still
an adult.
enjoyable. They're still enjoyable. I'm not knocking that at all. And to be honest, back in the era when this game was made, platformers were. All I'm saying is it's designed for a younger audience, but it's still a challenge and a lot of fun for adults. Obviously, you've got different difficulty modes. You've got a normal and hard mode as well, so you can push yourself. It's truly a wonderful game, and there's just so much beauty in it. It's a beautiful game. It looks beautiful. That's what I will say about this, and it plays beautifully. So going back to the point I was going to say towards why it didn't get a sequel. I think when Saturn came out, I think this was Sega of Japan saying, well, we want to try something new. We don't want to continue our franchises. And one thing Sega did, which was a mistake in that area, is they didn't continue to port their Mega Drive IPs on the Saturn. That was successful. So obviously we saw no Sonic game or a dedicated Sonic game on the Saturn, apart from Sonic R, shall we say. And there were other ones. All we had was Sonic Jam, which were ports of the Mega Drive game. Nothing new there. And Sonic 3D, which is again another port of a Mega Drive game. So a shame that Sega sort of didn't do that much in terms of looking after its great IPs that made the Mega Drive successful. And there's that. And by the time Sega Dreamcast comes, they've moved on and worked on other IPs. And I think it's a shame that this didn't get a sequel, because I think I could imagine this game working really well in 3D. In fact, I can imagine Ristar as an IP working better in 3D than Sonic the Hedgehog has. You know,
Mm.
it could work in 3D if you had a very clever programmer. But yeah, it's just a shame. But Sega's one hit wonder, and I think it's probably one of their best one hit wonders. If I'm being brutally honest.
So basically, Sega of
I'll be-
Japan was at fault, as
Mhm.
always.
Yeah,
Mm.
that Viraj and I were discussing another crazy thing about the Sega Mega Drive Mini, about Sega of Japan's being, greedy about this whole thing. But we can take that discussion offline. Yeah, I completely agree with Viraj. It is Sega of Japan's fault, and yours too, Joe. They're dicks. Okay, so so yeah, that is Viraj's pick. Ristar or Rystar depends on how you pronounce it, but it
Uh,
is a fabulous game
quick
nevertheless.
question:
Mhm.
Did Rystar was developed by Sonic Team?
It was Sonic Team, yeah. It was the last. I think it's the last game on the Mega Drive. I could be wrong, but I think it's the last one they made. So it was part of Sonic Team's created. It was one of their designs, and yeah, that's it.
Okay. My comment about Rystar is the fact that the very first time I booted it up, I do remember, being liking the visuals, but the sound really came across as I said, "Wow, the sound to this one is actually really different from your typical video game bleeps and bloops. This one, the music to this, the sound effect, it really kind of integrates well into the game." So
It
props to
works
you,
with the
Raj.
level. They perfectly match
Mm,
the level design. That's the thing.
mm,
It goes with it. That's the
mm.
beautiful thing about it. So yeah, that's a wonderful game.
All right, excellent, excellent.
And
Well, while we are here, we'd like to say hi to the people in the chats. I'd like to say hi to Ray Q. Excellent, excellent. Thanks very much, Ray Q, for being here. And Bren Esparas, who says good evening to all. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thanks very much for showing up. Thanks very much for being here at our show. We are talking about one-hit wonders for any platform at any time, the games that showed up once, made an impression, and never got a good sequel, or had sequels that did not live up to the very
mm,
first one. So yeah, the first game on the lineup today was Rystar or Ristar. It all depends on how you pronounce it. Thanks very much for that one, Viraj. Anybody else have
right.
any inputs on Rystar?
Mm, Rystar
I think.
reminds me of Cool Spot from that
Oh yeah, that's
Mm.
seven,
true.
was
It
it
does
Seven
come.
Up
Yeah,
mascot? Like,
yeah, that's true.
and the background, looking at it, it also had this Earthworm Jim kind of vibe, right?
Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
it was created when Mega Drive games became more and more detailed. They worked out parallax scrolling, more better looking
Mm.
backgrounds and detail. Obviously, it's towards the end of the Mega Drive's life cycle here. So yeah, you got that. But yeah, it's an outstanding looking game for 16-bit, obviously, because it's towards the end of its life, and they'd really worked out how to push the Mega Drive hardware. And I'm kind of glad it came out when it did, because I know a lot of people going about Donkey Kong Country, and that was like the best looking SNES game. Obviously, this and Vector Man are probably the better games that came out in '95 in terms of looks as well, and in terms of the way they play. They're outstanding games, to be honest. Especially Ristar. This is a game. I think it's an absolute travesty. It didn't get a sequel, but the fact that it has this one-hit wonder vibe to it, and it kind of makes it a bit more special, because sometimes a sequel can sort of stink compared to an original. I'm looking at Sparkstar or Rocket Knight Adventures 2, okay, compared to Rocket Knight Adventures. So sometimes you hope for a sequel, but I suppose at least Ristar has its honor as being, I was great when I came out, and I'll always be great. So it's something to
All
say
right,
about
it's Ray's Virage's hackles time. Ray Q in the chats did say something that I'm absolutely sure will get Virage's goat. He says Rystar is slow Sonic. There you
that.
go.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
He's not
He's
wrong.
not right either, though. He's not right either, because obviously
Oh,
Ristar doesn't spin
Here
attack.
we
He doesn't
go.
jump out. He uses his hands. It's a different mechanism and a dynamic altogether as a game in terms of how it plays. Yes, it's a platformer, but it's a lot more. There's much more. There's much more technique in how he plays.
Mm.
You know, and the boss fights are a lot different compared to Sonic. He has to grab and smash his face onto it rather than
Okay.
jump onto it, which is actually an easy mechanic. Sonic is an easier star game to get your grips to. This is a bit more technical, so he's not wrong in terms of its aesthetic, but he's also not right because the gameplay is very different.
There you
And
go.
on that
Too
point,
bad.
I better get going because I'm out of time.
Yeah,
now.
one of our sub goals in the Timeless Gamer podcast is we always need a Viraj to get him ranting. But yeah, sad to say, Viraj has to
No,
go.
no, he wants to rant, but he needs
Yeah.
to work.
I'm gonna get going.
Yeah, sad to say, Viraj has to go to work, but life always comes first. Thanks very much for your input, Viraj. Ristar or Ristar, originally on the Sega Genesis, now on many
Mm.
other platforms. That is Viraj's choice for a one-hit wonder. Excellent, excellent choice. Personally, I like his description of it. And if you guys are interested in checking it out, you can find it in many Sega Genesis compilations on modern platforms now. Thanks very much, Viraj. Back to
Right,
you, John.
you.
All right, thank you for that, Sir Viraj. If I'm going to add more into Restart Rise Star,
Mm,
uh, and I think this applies to the games that we're going to talk about.
mm-mm,
Um, I like to because this came out like what in 1995.
mm,
So basically, what the PlayStation's already coming out by this time. Sega of Japan and Sega of America were scrambling on which system they need to push out.
mm,
You got the 32X, and then you got the Saturn, right? And to me, it's like if not the overall sales that's the problem, it's the timing. Um, and we can argue that okay, if the sales are good, sure, may regardless of the fans' reactions, regardless of the players' reactions to it, if it doesn't sell well, why are we going to even bother
mm.
making making a sequel out of it, right?
That's
And
true.
even if it's selling well, but if the timing is wrong, like for example, this coming out of 995, a lot of competition. uh, what's the gaming competition of of the time was like
Mm,
Sega battling Nintendo, and then the looming of PlayStation. Of course, granted, this is Sega. They were underestimating the power of Sony at this time, coming into the forefront. Who they're more focused on what would Nintendo do, and what you got Turbo Graphics PC Engine as well. You got Atari, also looming in with their Jaguar. So Sega of Japan was just freaking out. So
mm.
rather than focusing their assets to their great IPs, the decision was okay. Let's pull all of our resources on one console slash system. Okay, so yeah, d- despite Rise Star having a significant fan base,
Mm.
territorial fan base,
Yeah.
just for some reason Sega of Japan just didn't wanted to. So yeah, let's go to our second game. Who wants to go first? So this is Sega. This is Sega Mega Drive. So let's go PS1. Anyone who? Oh, how about a little bit? Oh, how about let's go a little bit earlier back. How about let's go with Sir Joel's game?
All right, fine, fine, fine. Since I don't actually, because we have such great discussions here in Timeless Gamers podcast, not just here on the show but also on our Facebook page. I kind of misremember whether this topic was proposed by me or if this was proposed by Miss Hinu. I could be wrong on the fact that it was something that was proposed by me,
I
but
know I know Miss Hino mentioned something about
mm,
I'm not sure if
Dead
it's games
franchises.
we
dead
didn't get into
franchises.
for
That was
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
It
or
yeah.
was
dead
there
franchises.
it is.
Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
that one? So maybe it was you.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, like it might have been me, but like you said, the discussions we hear in Timeless Gamer Show, we just have so much fun, not just here on the show, but also offline. You guys should join us in our discussions in our Timeless Gamer Show Facebook page and eventually our Timeless Gamer Show website. We will be having, hopefully, like one of those old school bulletin board systems. You never
Mm.
know, like JDM. But yes, my first pick for one hit wonder is a game called Sim Tower. For anybody who ever played this game, Sim Tower, You guys are familiar with SimCity, The Sims, other games in the Sim franchise. And admittedly, the Sim franchise came out with a lot of one-hit wonders. There was Sim Ant, Sim Earth. There was Sid Meier's Sim Golf. I see Miss Hino reacting to
No, no,
the
no.
games that I'm
I
mentioning.
suddenly remember the
Mm.
herbs.
The herbs, yes, the Sims, the herbs, which is another offshoot of the Sims. Uh, so the idea here is that Sim Tower, whenever mention it to anybody who is familiar with all those old school games, DOS, Windows 3.1, it suddenly hits them and they say, "Oh wait, that game I spent hours and hours on just playing." The idea of Sim Tower is that you are tasked with building a building. So in this case, building a building from the ground up. You start with the lobby of the game, the lobby of the building, and then you slowly work your way up, trying to reach the top of the the top of the rankings as to the building, the building ratings. Now seaman is very different, so because we were showing that in the video portion. The thing about building a tower is that you always figure not about the structure itself. The tower is just a backdrop. The entire point of Sim Tower is making the people in your tower happy. Now, the thing about Sim Tower is that you start with a lobby and you start with 1 star rating. Your ultimate goal is to see that rating go from 1 star to 5 stars for your tower, for your building to be the very best in the town. And it's just one tower. The thing is, you start with the lobby, you start building. Now you think in terms of real time, what would a building need to have? Number one, it needs to have income because it has to maintain itself. People have to start having places there that they get income from. What does a building get income from? Normally, it gets income from uh, commercial spaces like restaurants, burger shops, ice cream shops, and then it gets regular income from offices because offices rent space in a building, and of course, the people who go to the offices, once they get to lunchtime, need to go to the commercial spaces to eat. They go to a burger shop to eat. They go to a Japanese yakisoba place to eat. And they go to the ice cream shop to kind of maybe relax in the afternoon after having busted their heads trying to file that TPS form. So they go to that TPS report. Now they go to those ice cream shops. They spend money there. The ice cream shops, the commercial places make money. They also turn a profit. And afterwards, one-time large investments come in the form of condominium units. Now, condominium units, they get large income first and then no more. As in, like people live there, you have to factor in the fact that they are living there, they produce trash. All of these places produce trash. Now, it's not a matter of making sure that the people are happy. It's also making sure that all of the places that you build, all of these rooms that you build, all of these little structures that you build are easily accessible. Easiest way to do that would be an elevator. Somebody I spoke with in the old days who already played Sim Tower was far more obsessed with the way that his elevators are positioned and the way that they move across the tower than he was with the rooms that he was putting up in Sim Tower. The thing about it is you also have to factor in security. You have to have a security office there where the security guard goes around at night to all the places that you built. Because if you don't have security, theft happens. So when theft happens, the value of that building goes down. The value of those rooms that had theft go down. You also have to have um, uh, 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 what do you call that? A sanitation facility, because all of these places produce trash. Trust me on this one. The trash accumulates very quickly, and you can build upwards and downwards as well. There will be basements, there will be parking garages. You have to factor in parking for all of those residents and all of those office workers and all of those people who go to these commercial establishments. And Of course, we factor in power, we factor in accessibility. The ultimate goal is to make sure that your building reaches 5 stars. And at the very last thing that you put at the very top of the tower that will cap everything off is a cathedral. Now, one of the biggest goals in that is to have your very first celebrity wedding at that cathedral at the top, and your tower has to have a 5 star rating for a celebrity to even think to have their wedding at the top of your tower. So it all comes together at the very end. Now the thing is, with Sim Tower, you can play it endlessly. You can play it over and over again. You can experiment with how things are structured. You can experiment with elevators. You can experiment with stairs. You can experiment with how close the commercial establishments are to the offices, or how far they are, because noise pollution actually affects people's in the condominiums. The more commercial establishments are close to the condominiums, the more they complain. The room rating, the condominium room rating, goes down from blue to yellow to red. Cockroaches can infest your places. So if your sanitation team does not do a good job, or they can't reach a room, a cockroach infests that room, and it is a loss for you. You have to destroy that room. As in, it's a total loss. You can't recover any money from it. You can't get any income from it. Nobody will rent it. So you have to demolish that room and build over with that particular section. So again, Sim Tower is one of those games that a lot of people played over and over again way back in the DOS early Windows games that they had a lot of fun with and look fondly on when they suddenly remember it. Somebody like me will say, "Hey, did you play Sim Tower?" And they'll say, "Oh my goodness, yeah, Sim Tower is great." So it had a semi-sequel called U Tower, which is exactly the same thing. It's still Sim Tower, but U Tower had towers over that you can build over in Hawaii. Not much difference actually. It's just a difference in setting. Hawaii and I think downtown Japan. It didn't sell as well, and that's the reason why the whole idea of our show being a one-hit wonder is one game that never had a good sequel, or that never had a sequel at all. So in this case, it was Sim Tower. It had a sequel called U Tower, and it had a semi remake in the Game Boy Advance. Surprisingly, it was called the Tower SP. And again, if you're a sim lover, you will love this game as well, because all those little people wandering around in the tower, you can actually magnifying glass over each one, and they will have little comments as to how your tower is coming along. That sim will say, these elevators take forever to come, and they start turning red. They get angry because the elevators are not coming to their floor fast enough, or like, there are no closed bathrooms here. I really need to pee. And these sims are actually the same sims that you will see, if you ever had Sim City, things like that. So in a way, in my head, it kind of all ties together as one giant Will Wright world, The Sims. So again, that is my game that is my very first game for One Hit Wonderland, Sim Tower. So any thoughts, comments? Everybody who is in the chats, please put in your thoughts. If you remember Sim Tower, let me know, because it is one of my fondest memories. All right. Casino.
I would need to recommend that to my brother
Yeah.
because my brother loves playing the SimCity games. And
Mm,
yeah, do you mention that one time when I asked everyone in the chat, hey, do you remember this game? The one
yes.
wherein you can view the street view, and it reminds me of that. It
Mm-mm.
looks really interesting. And have you ever tried building like a condominium that doesn't have any elevators, just the
Oh yeah,
stairs,
I did.
just to
Yeah,
see how
definitely.
the
Yeah.
residents would react?
Yeah, absolutely. They turned red really quickly. If they were moving from first floor to floor 50, they were angry. They were pissed. There was no way they were gonna do that. Like all my any floor above 10 floors was already rated a red. And Mike, I couldn't get my star rating to above 2. It was funny. The thing about it is, you can run scenarios on these, like you said, try it out. Like, What happens if I put nothing but stairs? What happens if I don't put bathrooms in, in the floor? What happens if I, what happens if it's nothing but offices? They all get rented out, but they all go hungry. Like there
The,
nobody has any place to eat. Yeah, you were about to say, Miss Hino.
the spiritual. Sorry
Hmm.
about my
Yeah,
voice, guys.
yeah.
I'm still
Absolutely. Hmm.
recovering from cough. So,
Hmm.
regarding the spiritual sequel that you've mentioned, so
Hmm.
for what platform was it
Oh,
released?
the spiritual sequel is called Project High Rise. If I remember correctly, it also came. Project High Rise is a spiritual sequel to Sim Tower. It came out in the Nintendo Switch, the Xbox, and PlayStation 4. I could be misremembering the PlayStation 4. Yeah, Project High Rise. That's it. So this is the spiritual sequel to it. It's not. It looks all right. It plays all right. No, 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 not this one. This one is actually one
This
of those
one
mobile
is
games. This is Fallout. This is
The
Fallout Shelter.
shelter.
Fallout
Yeah,
Shelter.
Fallout Shelter. This is Project High Rise. Now, Project High Rise is the spiritual sequel to Sim Tower, and it doesn't have that same charm, I guess the right word for it. It doesn't have the feel that Sim Tower has. With it has a lot more detail. You manage the power, you manage the structure, you manage the elevators and everything, and it's fun. This Project High Rise is also fun, but somehow I keep coming back to Sim Tower because whenever I have that itch of I kind of feel like like building a building, then I don't reach for Project High Rise. I reach for Sim Tower because in my mind it's just so much more fun. It's so much more charming, and
No, I mean,
mhm,
looking at Project High Rise,
mhm,
they got it right. You need
mhm,
some stairs. If
mhm.
the elevator is not working, how else are you gonna go up and
Yeah, that's
down? I
true.
mean,
That's true. I mean, the thing
stairs
about
are
it is
needed. Sim
stairs
Tower
are.
didn't have the stairs.
No, no, no. Sim Tower has stairs. The thing about it is
Do they have
stairs
the stairs?
are, yeah, they do. It's
Yeah,
just that they are more secondary. It's the fact that with Sim Tower, uh elevators are the biggest factor, but stairs actually help alleviate the pressure from the people who are turning red because they keep waiting for
mm,
the elevator to come to their floor. And my rule is for every 2 to 3 floors. For every 2 to 3 floors that have no, every 2 to 3 floors, I put in a set of stairs so that they can get they can get down to wherever they need to. They can get to the floor that above the floor or below the floor that they need to. Then they can take the stairs going down. So in a way, it kind of
Yeah.
works.
Okay,
Mhm, yeah,
there's the
there
stairs.
it is. There's
Okay.
some stairs there, but management of the elevators is key. It's because one shaft of an elevator is not just one elevator. As you can see here, you can put multiple elevators in there, and it can get a lot of tie up. Let's still get tied up in terms of the number of people coming up and down, and
So
whoever is putting
you
this up.
also have
Mhm.
control on how high each floor goes. Like for
No,
example,
the floors are all set at a firm 9 feet, 9 feet tall each, except for the lobby. The lobby can become a
uh,
grand lobby because of the fact that they
right.
can have events there and all that. But in general, it's a standard set here, especially here in the United States. 9 feet is is the standard height of a floor in a building. So they kind of followed that. So it's a standard height.
question.
Go ahead, JDM.
Do you also have disasters here like fire and
Actually,
earthquake?
yeah, the closest thing about disasters is that they can have fires. They can have fires,
Mm.
especially in the commercial side. Yes, if I remember correctly, it's the fact that things can happen: fires, thefts, cockroaches. That's the unique Miss Hino is scrunching up her face because I it looks like she has an aversion to the creepy crawlies.
There it
I,
is.
I
Fire.
hate them. I can't enter the house when there's a cockroach at the door. You know that happens. So
No. Then the very best thing for Miss Hina would be like the cockroach that she sees on the wall, and then they eyeball each other, and it flies straight at her face.
Man, okay,
You
so
know when
I'm showing the gameplay with
Mm.
actual fire in floor five.
Yes, fires can happen. JDM, you were about to say.
the thing about cockroach when it's stationary,
Mm-mm.
if you don't move there's nothing to be worried about. But when it starts to like take off,
Yes, exactly. Then all bets are
it's like
off.
a different story.
All bets are off. It's taken flight. Every man for himself. Women and children, sorry, you guys are on your own. That's true. That's true. The Flight of the Valkyrie suddenly starts playing. All right, so that is my choice for first game. It is Sim Tower. I'll yield the floor now to the next person who wants to put up
By the
their.
way,
Yes, go ahead,
I think
GDM.
I don't know if this is probably one of the reasons why they haven't done a sequel of this game.
Mm-mm.
Maybe because of claustrophobic sim
Could be.
game,
Could be. Mm.
because it's when you see the gameplay, it's
Mm-mm.
focused inside of the building.
Mm-mm.
So
That's true. That's
maybe
true.
they would like to see more of
Mm-hmm.
the environment outside,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Mm-hmm.
decided to play. Oh, I don't. It's a nice game and all, but
Mm-hmm.
I want to see
Oh my.
um, the environment outside of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Okay.
preferred the other
Mm-hmm.
sim games
Oh my
like
goodness, whoever set this up is just, is just flooding it with nothing but condo units. Oh my goodness. What
I
maniac did this? Okay.
I for one
Mhm.
I for one am looking at the big screen right now. So I'm playing the game. I'm watching the gameplay
Yeah.
on my big
Mhm.
screen here,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I am just focusing on one of the condo units and on the rooms actually.
Mm-mm.
Like it's like if I'm gonna see some action,
Ah, there you
like
go.
some
Orange coffee.
action.
No, Joe. You will not see the Sims getting it on. But in
No, that's the
Sims
thing.
4,
That's the thing.
mm,
If
it,
nothing else,
mhm.
like a follow up question, can you even zoom in to each
And no,
floor?
sad to say, no, no, no. In
Oh,
Project High Rise, you can.
that oh, see,
Orange Coffee here
that's the
on
problem.
Twitch says U Tower. No, sad to say, Orange Coffee. U Tower is the sequel, well, semi sequel to Sim Tower. Good evening, Orange Coffee. Thanks very much for being here on Twitch. This
well,
is Sim Tower originally on Windows 3.1, if I remember correctly, and Youth Tower is the unofficial sequel to it, and of course the Tower SP. And it's sad to say Japan only a Tower DS game. Sad to say it never came out. I do remember one of the things that allowed me to remember Miss Hinu's what game was this thing was this game, because she was looking for City Life DS, if I remember correctly, right? Miss Hinu, she was looking for the life of her for a game called that her brother played that they can't remember. She described it. It hit my head. It kind of is like Sim Tower. It's city life. So that's I mentioned it to Miss Hino, and she was extremely happy for remembering. That's what we do here in Timeless Gamer. We recommend old games that might be new to you, or help you remember the games that you completely forgot. That feels fresh all over again. So again, this is my choice. Sim Tower for Windows 3.1. Still playable nowadays. Just go to the, lesser known sections of the internet. You can find it, easily download it, run it, play it. It'll run like a champ. No,
And the reason why it never got a sequel,
mm,
the inability to zoom in and spy on the scene.
because Jaw's voyeuristic tendencies are not fulfilled. But
yes, and
I I
claustrophobic people.
I kind of look at it on a more positive way. You got it perfect the first time. Can't do anything else. Can't top it. All right, next person. I yield the floor. Whoever wants to jump in
Let's
with
go with
their
Miss
yeah,
Hino.
yes, Miss Hino. Let's hear your choice for one hit wonder.
Okay, my choice for one hit wonder. Let's start with the RPG first, since I play nothing but RPGs and visual novels. So
Ah, that's fine.
here it is. It's
Radiant
Radiant Historia
Historia.
for
Yeah.
the Nintendo DS, a game that was also remastered for the 3DS. Sadly, I believe we didn't get any news if it's gonna get ported to the Switch, and I believe that they can easily port the 3DS remaster to the Switch. So let's talk about this game. Back when I was first starting my collection in 2016, 17 or so, of course I was looking for like the top 10 RPGs for the Nintendo DS and also the top 10 for the 3DS. And when I look at the list for the Nintendo DS RPGs, I saw them, or I saw a lot of websites mention Radiant Historia. So I was curious. I wasn't really familiar with the game, and during the time when the Nintendo DS came out, I didn't really play much of it. Each of my siblings had their own DS, but I never really borrowed it. I wanted them to, have fun, utilize the console all on their own. So I was pretty late to the party when it comes to discovering the games for the DS. So luckily, I saw a local seller who was selling this, and it was actually kind of pricey even back then. Maybe it was around 2,000 pesos in 2016. So I think that's still a lot. So let's talk more about the game itself. And since our partner is the
BitMap Books.
a guide to Japanese role playing
Oh
games,
yes, there you
you know,
go.
I'm
let's
glad
utilize
the
and
Sorry, JDM. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm
Where's the
glad
book? Where's the book?
I'm very glad that the copy is not blurred. Unlike
Where's the book, Machino?
Ninang
Where's the
Joe.
book?
Okay.
Show the
Show
book,
us the
Miss
book,
Hino.
Thank
Show the
God.
Machino.
book. Yes, there
show
you
the
go.
cover.
Mm.
Yes.
What can you
There
tell
you
us
go.
about Bit? What can you tell us about that book?
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm.
Oh my gosh, this book is a treasure trove of information if you want to discover new games or if you want to learn more about the games that you already know and love. This is the perfect go to. And I believe they also discuss games that have never been localized to English. So if you want to, especially the older titles, the 16-bit games,
Mhm.
tons of games that are mentioned here that I think are worth looking into. Thanks to technology and the Yarhar high seas, and also to the people who do the patches, do the translations. I think uh, the obscure games that are mentioned here are more accessible now. So it's a relatively affordable affordable book for a treasure trove of knowledge regarding the different RPGs of old and new, as well as spanning across multiple platforms.
All right. Thank you for that.
So, um, okay, so Radiant Historia was published by Atlas, and of course, we know that Atlas Games, after so many years upon release, their games tend to go up in price.
Yeah. The thing about
So,
Atlas, let me just put this forward, Miss Hino. I like
sure.
Atlas. I like Atlas as a publisher. They almost always come out with unique, fun games. And anytime I see the Atlas logo, I know I'm in for a good time.
It's
That's
quality.
it's quality. It's probably one of the reasons why the value keeps shooting up. But yes, you can
Under
continue, Miss
Sega.
Hino. There you go.
Looking
Go
at
ahead, Miss.
you, Square
Mm,
Enix.
there you go. Square
Not
Enix.
to
Yeah,
Square
I
Enix.
know. All right. Continue, Miss Hino. Please continue.
So the game was released in 2010, originally to the Nintendo DS. So Jesus Christ, 2010. That's how many
Mhm.
years ago.
Yep.
I don't want to think anymore. And in terms of the story, I wouldn't say this is something that's original. It's about two warring countries, kingdoms, and whatnot, and you play as Locke, who's a professional soldier slash bodyguard, and he has this mysterious book that lets him travel through time. Now, um, here in this book, they do mention Dragon Quest Seven and Chrono Trigger. Now, I've only played and finished Chrono Trigger, and I haven't played DQ7, but just like those two games, Radiant Historia lets you travel across time. But the its distinguishing factor is that it's not only that you travel across time,
Mhm.
you basically travel across two parallel timelines. So you like switch from like timeline A to timeline B, and so on and so forth. And to make things easier visually as well for the players, there's a flow chart of sorts within the game so that you can easily navigate that. Okay, I'm like in timeline A. I need to go back to this one scenario in timeline B. But the catch is you can only jump backwards in time. If you need to fix something, look for it at the same timeline or jump to the alternate timeline, but you can never jump forwards. Uh, I think it's a very good use of the time travel mechanic because since Chrono Trigger is such a well beloved game, even now, people are saying that we haven't seen any other games utilize that mechanic as well as Chrono Trigger. And I've read a lot online when I was looking for this game back then that this is like the closest or one of the closest games if ever you're looking to play something that's that kind of feels like Chrono Trigger and also has that you decide your own fate if you ultimately pick this timeline, then whatever outcome happens, that is your choice. So it kind of also gives the player this sense of freedom and not just going down to through just one linear path, one linear ending. Um, let's talk about the soundtrack. Surprisingly, I didn't really know this before, but the soundtrack was made by none other than the talented Yoko Shimamura, who is also known as the composer for the Kingdom Hearts games. So that is something to look forward to. Uh, Graphics are in this beautiful 16-bit style, pixel art graphics. I believe for the remaster for the 3DS, they remade the portraits, made them more like modern looking. I think they made it more like into illustrations and not pixel art. So if you want to have some sort of variety, or if you play the original DS version and you want to experience the game as like a fresh new experience, the remaster for the 3DS has these new portraits. I believe there's also a new dungeon and there's a bit of additional content just for the both new fans and old fans to look forward to. Regarding the battle, it's turn-based battle and it's kind of unique. It's turn-based, but it's also grid-based. The grid is 3 by 3. You have the ability to knock your opponents backwards, and they also have the ability to knock you backwards in return. Um, Once you knock an opponent backwards, you alongside your party members can do like a combo attack and utilize once your foe is down, do a super move and whatnot, and deal the finishing blow. So that's something that's kind of unique and also changes things up versus the traditional Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, wherein you're just all in one straight line attack, magic, and whatnot. So that kind of spices things up.
So what you're
So
saying is, Miss Hino, that once your opponent is down, you can gangbang him. Okay, got it. Okay.
yes, that is
Excellent.
absolutely right. You can do it at the front, at the back, at the right. Yes, you can all sides. Yes.
Absolutely wonderful, excellent. Yeah. I like Miss Hino's sense of humor. If you guys can't tell, there you go.
I did see, however, that there is a little footnote in here that um, it seems that Radiant Historia is a spiritual successor to the obscure 1995 Super Famicom game called Grand Historia.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not
I don't.
something that I've played before,
Yeah,
but
I don't think I've
Grand
heard of
Historia.
that one. I have to check that
Japanese
one.
only, I
Okay.
think.
Oh, okay. There you
it,
go.
Uh,
That's probably it. Hey, maybe
it
there's an
also
English
mentions
patch
here
to it.
that there's time travel there. So that's
Hmm.
actually something
Oh,
to
it's
look forward
oh,
to
hang on.
people looking for
So
the
it's not
time
Chrono
travel.
Trigger who came up with it first.
Yeah, I know. Some kind of.
Woo! Hot take.
All right, Derek.
So
let's go back to
Like.
yeah,
1995.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Let's pause a bit.
Okay.
So Chrono Trigger didn't start the time traveling aspect,
Yes.
whereas Victoria did. You
We're
heard
not
it
All
first,
we're
right.
not
according to
we're
And
Miss
not
Nunu right
starting a
here.
fight.
and Miss Hito has just
And
touched off a war. Okay.
We're not starting a
Ye-
fight. The one who
yes,
loves fights
we
already
are.
left
Yes, we
earlier.
are.
No, no, no.
No, we're not.
Yes,
She's
we
just reading
are.
off a book.
Don't do
Okay,
it when
according to
I'm
the
in
book.
the show.
Yes, we are. Yeah. But but JDM actually put this forward. Very, very important.
Uh,
Here's a game that can help you move on from Chrono Trigger. Derek Fun. There you go. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Because of the fact that we have the biggest
no, no,
CT
no.
and
To Miss Hina's point, the time traveling aspect makes a lot more sense here compared to
mm,
Chrono Trigger, because
mm,
because with triggers time travel aspect, everything
mm,
goes in a linear time plane. Meaning, if you go back, then that so according to Chrono Trigger, so linear. If you go back in time to do some shit,
mm,
eventually in the future things will change because of something that you did. In
mm.
Radiant Historia, multiverse theory, meaning if you go back in time, then what you do back then will go into a tangent point of another timeline, which
So
it will branch
basically,
out.
it's the Marvel Universe time travel theory, not
It's
like
not like yeah, because Chrono Trigger
Back to the
is
Future.
like Back to the Future rules,
Yes,
basically.
but
mm,
wait a minute. But does Back to the Future rules have divergent timelines, or because of the fact that
No,
it always confuses me when Doc Brown always explained it as alternate timelines, but whatever Marty did in the past actually affects him in the future. So
affects the future.
it
See,
feels like it's one straight timeline. Whereas
right?
in Marvel Universe, whatever you did in the past branches off in a different timeline.
mm.
It doesn't affect
That's what
you
they
where
did
you
here
are
with
right
Radiant
now.
Historia. Yes.
That's it. So that is how it. I guess those are the rules that Radiant Historia is following, Miss Hinu. Alternate timelines, Marvel Universe rules. Okay, got it. Okay, go ahead.
It's not like Time Cop
Oh yeah,
or
time
Time
cop.
Machine Hot Tub.
Or time machine hot tub
Hot
time
Tub
machine
Time Machine.
or what was the other one quantum leap. Quantum
Quantum
leap.
Leap.
Yeah, quantum leap, there you go. I mean, I really wished in that little snippet in Avengers Endgame there where he was listing out all those time travel, all those time travel movies. I wish he had inserted, yeah, Die Hard. Oh wait a minute, and everybody would say, oh no no no, Die Hard is good. Die Hard is a good movie. Anyway, continue, Messina. Go ahead.
Actually, when I played Radiant Historia, because I played the Radiant
Mm,
Historia Perfect Chronology for the
mm.
3DS,
Yes, there you go.
and because as you traverse on the different timelines, as you go further in and back and forth, different timelines,
Mm.
I hardly question it, and I like the bitch a lot.
Mm.
When in terms of story, and the time traveling aspect here is the main crux of the game. So I hardly question the time aspect of it compared to when I played Chrono Trigger, and I'm like, what? Anyways,
Well,
back to Missing.
well, the thing is, time travel rules have to make sense in your head somehow.
Mm.
When you go into a fantastic or sci-fi setting, there has to be internal consistencies as to what rules the story follows. So if you follow a good storyline and it sticks to the I guess the right word for it is the lore or the internal consistency rules of the storytelling, you get immersed in it. The same way Joe is telling it how it is, where he went into it, he understood it, he did not question it. That means that the game followed the rules consistently. It went well. It established rules of time travel and it stuck to it. And
Which
I
Chrono
guess
Trigger doesn't really.
which Chrono Trigger does not really war. Okay, there you go. But yes, I we digress in our conversation. Go ahead, Messino.
I think
What makes Raiden Historia stand out aside from its consistently good storytelling and adherence to internal rules?
I think it's well, I think it did a lot of small things right, and all of those, good things accumulated into one good job of a game.
Mm.
They fully utilized both of the screens, top, bottom screens, and I think the artwork that they made for this game is really, really beautiful.
Mm.
And it's something that, they made the colors pop out. The battles were fast paced. And relating to what Joe mentioned earlier regarding Chrono Trigger, it's easier to grasp the time travel here because you're traversing through two similar timelines. In Chrono Trigger, the timelines are set may, maybe millennia apart, centuries apart. So it's like it's harder to see the big picture when the scale is that big. So this is more digestible, I would believe, for players to understand. And yeah, I also saw one little tidbit here that for the remaster for the 3DS that they made the game fully voiced. So
Yeah,
which
they did.
is another good thing for the old players if you wanna see how the characters would sound like fully voiced. And I think they also kind of dumbed it down because I'm reading here is that um, they had a friendly mode wherein you just touch the enemy and the enemy would die. So
Mm.
maybe it's for players who are, can't afford to grind for levels or are busy with life, school, and jobs and whatnot, and just want to experience the story.
Mm.
That's still a very helpful feature.
Yeah.
Uh,
More games
but
should have
let's go to the
more games
reason.
should have that. Yeah, more games should have that. The
I
my
absolutely agree.
yes, my
An
my
easy mode,
the
a skip mode.
or the my instant death abilities overpowered isekai, anime mode,
So Joe, what is that? The finger poke of death?
Oh, you're talking about the Fist of the North Star, okay? Or are you talking about the Ranma episode where they were talking about how the Ryoga learned the Banzai Tenken or something that if you try to
Banzai
push
Tenken. Yeah,
the Banzai
Ryoga.
Tenken,
Yeah.
yeah, there you go. When he pushed something that it would explode, and it turns out it
Just
was
with one
nothing.
finger,
It
then
was
that's it.
yeah, it was only good for rocks or something.
Yeah. Or
Mhm.
Sir J. Tim is talking about Hulk
Mhm.
Hogan doing the finger poke of doom against Kevin Nash.
Oh, I don't think I remember that one.
He knows what's up.
There you go. All right, Miss Hino. So, Radiant Historia. We wish it more games had the we're busy with life, but we still want a game function. But yes, continue. Mhm.
Yeah, and to close things off for this game, I believe it didn't have a sequel. It's because the game can stand on itself.
Mm,
Sure,
mm,
it would have been good if we had like a similar game, maybe set on a different continent with different characters, but lore wise, I'm not sure how's that gonna make sense. Maybe something along the line of like 50 years later, 100 would be fine. But yeah, just like with you and the first game that we also discussed earlier, it's also nice knowing that the game stays good because there was no bad sequel that followed it. All right, that's all for to me for my first game.
all right. Okay.
Next
Uh,
person, go ahead.
yeah.
Uh, uh,
ADM. Okay.
okay, so before we just a little bit of addition with Regina Historia.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So they did remastered it for the 3DS. Radiant Historia, perfect chronology. They added a few more stuff, as Miss Hino mentioned, and to my knowledge, there is no other game that followed this one that also dwelled on time travel. To my knowledge, I mean, what
Mm,
else came out that had some time travel aspect with it? I
okay.
mean, this is the
They
only one.
mentioned Dragon Quest 7, but I haven't played it, and I'm not looking forward to playing it. They said it was so long. So
Well, the thing about
ah,
Dragon Quest Seven, there is also the DS 3DS version, and I have to admit when I started playing started playing Dragon Quest 7 on the PlayStation 1, I
Mm.
have to admit it was slow and plodding at first, and it kind of lost me initially. So maybe if I get back into it with the 3DS version, I might enjoy it. But I have to say something to say for getting a person hooked as
Yeah,
early as you can in the game.
because because I take
Yeah.
because I take umbrage that
Go
every
ahead.
time time travel is being speak of
Aha.
with video games, they also they will always almost always go to Chrono Trigger. Oh, yeah, they're just copying
Yeah.
Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, Chrono
Mm, mm.
Trigger. Yeah, we're
Like
you know,
if
Actually,
Chrono
the
Trigger
only
did
other
it best.
yeah. Go ahead,
the
Miss Hino.
only other the only other game that has time travel that actually managed it well is a visual novel, the Steins Gate series.
Steins Gate.
Steins Gate. Yes. Hmm.
One one of the best time travel stories in any media. But
Okay.
the sad thing with this is that not everyone has, the patience or like
Yeah, that's true.
it
We
really attuned to
visual
visual
novel.
novels. So there's the anime for the
Oh,
others. And
I mean, if we're talking a time travel, you might as well talk about the game that I got when I went back to the Philippines with you, Joe. We were wandering around Green Hills and we got a PlayStation 4 game of Back to the Future, the video game with the actual voice actors. That has time travel. We're talking time travel,
oh,
itself here. We have the actual voices of Doc Brown. We have the actual voices of
Oh,
Marty
Ah,
McFly, and it does
nice.
play around with the concept that it happened after the movies, but still
ooh,
has yeah,
Back to the
that it
Future. Yeah.
still has ramifications. And you still have to go back and fix things. So time travel, yeah. And I completely reject the alternate universe explanations of Marvel, of Marvel universe on that one. Whatever, whatever you do,
Speaking of
if you time travel to the past, there is an effect on you in the
I
future. I
mean,
adhere to the Back to the Future rules. Yes.
speaking of which, that's another topic.
Mm,
Visual novel games.
Nah.
Hmm.
visual novel games. Yeah, that's true. I admit it's not my forte, but I have played a
I
couple.
might solo that that
You will follow
There
that.
you
Oh,
go. There you go.
we will reserve that episode once you're
Yes,
available again. Okay.
absolutely. Oh, as a side question, Miss Hino, did you play the My Life as a Villainess visual novel yet on the Switch? No,
not yet because I
not
haven't
yet.
read the
I will
original
try
material.
that actually.
Okay, well, my daughter loves it. Yeah, just a quick recommendation. All right, we move on to
Wait.
JDM.
One
Oh
more.
yeah,
One
Sorry,
more.
one more
go
thing.
ahead. Absolutely, yeah.
So people who are curious about Radiant Historia, the original DS release is actually cheaper than the 3DS release.
Mm,
The 3DS release, especially the limited edition one, is
mhm,
insanely high in price. So, but if
mhm,
you can get it as cart and the case,
mhm.
maybe it's more affordable. But if you're on a budget, you can still get this.
No, the funniest thing, Miss Eshi, sorry, Miss Eshi, because I just saw Miss Eshi pop up in the chats. Miss Eshi, hello, hello, hello.
Oh,
Yes, the funniest thing, Miss Hino, is the fact that I remember a time when Radiant Historia, the DS version, was $100 here, as in because it was
Yes,
before the 3DS version came out. It was $100
yes,
used and by itself, just the cartridge, not even in case. It was sitting there, and somebody was selling it. I think it was in GameStop for $100, solid, as in because it was that.
Christ.
There you go. And then the 3DS version came out, but that's
I
history.
wonder what happened to that copy.
Oh, somebody probably snapped it up when it crashed. But yeah, go for it, JDM. You're up next. What's your one hit wonder first choice? Mhm.
Okay, so one hit wonder for me, it's going to be the computer side, the PC side of the RPG games.
Yes.
It's going to be Planescape Torment
Oh yes.
in
Mhm.
1999. So, Pla- Planescape Torment is a RPG game developed by Black Isle Studios
Mhm.
and published by Interplay Studios back in 1999, which uses uh, I forgot which engine, the engine they used for Baldur's Gate game prior to this game. It's a story of an immortal named the Nameless One, who just who was recently reincarnated in a mortuary, and he doesn't know who he is or what he does in his previous life, because he's an immortal, but whenever he dies he reincarnates, but with no memories whatsoever of his past exploits or past adventures. So this man is called the Nameless One. So it uses the same mechanics of Baldur's Gate. You have
Mhm.
this strength, wisdom, these abilities. Uh, used the what do you call this, advanced Dungeons and Dragons
Mhm.
mechanics
Yes.
with these abilities, and
AD&D
also
forever. Yes. Mhm.
yes, this is the standard for CRPG games back then, when it started with the advanced Dungeon and Dragon game.
Mhm.
So back to this game. So the Nameless One is in pursuit of. He had this question, um, why he is um, immortal, why he doesn't die. And the funny thing is that whenever he gets reincarnated, he forgets what happened to his past life, and he's always like in different. He had these different personalities. So there's a like reincarnation of him who's uh like a mild mannered person. Then when he dies and gets reincarnated, he becomes like a paranoid, this paranoid person. So it's always different. It's always a different personality whenever he reincarnates, and along the way he meets people who joins his cause. In He's like soul searching. He's looking for an answer why he's immortal, who was he in the past life. And mostly of out of all these party members that he encounters, they were previously they they were previously uh, like had interaction or with the Nameless One in his past incarnations. So it's really a very deep game. It's not
Oh
like,
yes,
yeah, it's
absolutely. Mhm.
if you're into psychology, it's like a dissociate, what do you call this
This,
DSD, was it?
yeah, dissociative personality disorder.
Dissociative
Yeah.
disorder.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's it also the theme, one of the theme of this game is like, I guess, existentialism.
No,
You
just ask.
always, yeah,
Just
yeah,
go
as
for the straight. Ask the question directly, JDM. What can change the nature of a man? Yeah, it's simple.
yes.
Mhm.
So I think that is clearly one of the reasons why this game didn't get much acclaim, because
Mhm.
it's so deep that most people find it boring.
Mhm.
Unlike um, because before this game it was Baldur's Gate,
Oh yeah. Mhm.
and with
Icewind Dale.
Baldur's Gate, yes,
Mhm.
I think Icewind Dale was also part of the reason why
Mhm.
this game didn't get a
Mhm.
sequel,
Yeah, could
because
be.
they were Icewind Dale was released a year later after this game,
Mhm.
um and also Baldur's Gate had the sequels as well, or
Mhm.
expansions.
Mhm.
And because it didn't get much acclaim from gamers, or it didn't, I think the only fame it get is because of cult following,
Mm.
right? And then also, um, like I said earlier, it's too deep. It's
Mm.
not like your average role playing games like
Mm.
Baldur's Gate that
Yeah.
there's a story of like
Mm.
um what I call this, looking for
Mm.
allies to
Yeah.
fight through the evil villains.
Mm.
And this one is like is the story is quite,
Mm.
not sure if it's personal.
And
There's a personal battle.
I
There's
can.
a conflict,
Mhm.
personal conflict
Yes. Mhm.
in this game.
Mhm. I can sum it up in in a few sentences, JDM. Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, they are much like the fun girlfriend that you have. There's lots of action. There's lots of things to do. There's enjoyment to be had. Planescape Torment is a commitment. We're talking like marriage kind of commitment. We are talking like hours and hours of reading. It's basically a book that if Miss Hino was looking for a visual novel, this is a visual novel for men, for
Yeah.
men. And the thing is, because of the fact that this one is the kind of is the kind of the storytelling is so deep and raw and it's psychological. It's not just about bashing somebody's skull in. It's about bashing somebody's skull in and having a look inside and seeing what actually made him tick. So that's the idea of Planescape Torment. It And I have very fond memories of this game. I remember when I played Baldur's Gate way back in my college days, and I relayed it to my Mrs. to be, my ex girlfriend, my Mrs. to be. So, so I told her how I loved the Baldur's Gate series, and she was kind enough when she came over to visit from the U.S. because during that time she was already in the U.S. When she came over, and she gifted me the entire set of the all the Baldur's Gate games, all the Icewind Dale games, and all the Planescape and the one Planescape Torment game, all in the big boxes. She came home, she gave those to me. She said, enjoy. And there's a reason why she's my wife now. She gets me. So I get the entire premise of Planescape Torment. It is a study on what changes the nature of a man. And honestly, if you put your time, effort, and commitment to enjoying this game, you are going to come away changed and for the better. This game is one of those kinds of games, honestly. It's slow paced, it is deep. You do a lot of reading, you have to make a commitment to it, but I can guarantee you, you are not coming away from this unchanged. You are going to be you are coming away from this saying, that was one of the very best games I have ever played. I'm telling this to you now, Joe. You're a JRPG fan. If you're looking for something deep, awesome, something that will not just equal or surpass JRPG lore or storytelling, this is it. And you have to expect it to be slow and plodding, but this is, if I am going to recommend one Western RPG to you, this would be it. There you go. What
That
do you say,
sounds like
JJ?
my cup of tea.
There you go. Miss Hino
Yeah.
is in. Okay. Miss Hino is in for
No,
this one.
I want the slow burn. I want the heavy reading since
Oh yeah.
I read high fantasy books. So
This one
that's
is
something
Yeah.
that's not really new. So
mm,
I was actually looking into that game, and I'm really glad that it's featured for today because I've
mm,
never played any of the Baldur's Gate
mm,
games before, and then I saw the rise of Baldur's Gate 3. So as I was looking for the copies for the Switch,
mm,
I saw that because its cover is very similar
mm.
visually to the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2.
Yes.
And now, since you guys are recommending that, I have something to play and
Yeah.
add to my backlog.
There you go. Now this
You
one,
you really
honestly,
get invested with the
yeah.
story. Yeah.
Honestly, just if you have the correct mindset, push this forward into the front of your queue, Miss Hino. Honestly, this is really worth it. It's easy to get also on GOG.com. If you are interested in getting it on modern platforms, GOG.com, GOG.com, goodoldgames.com has this. Get it on sale. play it, enjoy it, and come back to us. Tell us how much you enjoyed it. Honestly, it is well worth the time, effort, and money. Honestly, if you get it on sale, you can tell yourself, I made out like a bandit on this one because of the sheer value that you get for this one. Dan Faulkner says Sergio nails it. Planescape Torment has a story which absorbs you like few others. Yes, absolutely. JDM, why is Planescape Torment something that what is the one thing about Planescape Torment that you can tell everybody in the audience right now to make them want to go out and get this? What makes it the core, the very core one hit wonder for you?
Um, for me, it's because back in college when um, uh, we had this like a minor subject
Mhm,
which is philosophy,
mhm,
and then I'm really um, I guess I if I was given a chance to go back
mhm.
in my college days and decide whether which study or
A
major I'm going to
dissertation?
get.
You could
Yeah,
make a dissertation on this. I
yeah.
agree. Yes.
It, I there was a time back in college when I got really interested with philosophy,
Mm-mm,
and I was reading some articles about existentialism
mm-mm,
and something like that. Then an article I read, I it mentioned this game. Then
mhm.
it it imagine just going to just studying for philosophy, and then you got introduced to this game.
Oh,
Then you got hooked,
mm-mm,
and it also at first I didn't know that it was this is just like those games, Icewind Dale, Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights. It was like that. It was an adventure RPG game slash adventure RPG game that has party members. But here, I I really got hooked with the story because it's a conflict in a man.
mm.
He's soul searching. He's looking for answers, something like that. And maybe some players out there or gamers out there might get bored because the story is so deep. But I I don't challenge you, but I dare you to play this, and I'm sure you will get hooked.
Mhm.
Especially if you're into this genre.
Yes, completely agreed.
Why is
Uh,
everyone looking for a fight?
yeah, because again, it's a visual novel. On the masculine side, we're talking Messina because of the fact that you're not looking for your Bishi boys to get together with.
No,
This
let
one
me
you are
stop
going
you
to.
there.
Okay. Okay.
The visual novels that
Mhm.
I play as a hero, not a heroine.
Okay,
I go
fine,
for
fine,
the
fine. Okay.
girls, and I
Okay, fine.
play the
Mhm.
gruesome crime one. So,
All right.
but
Oh,
I do
those guys. Okay,
understand.
okay. Pero in this case, though, this one is not so much a search for a partner or a romantic link. It is a search inwards for who you are and who you truly are, who you were and who you are, and who you choose to be in the future. This one will delve into not just the psyche of the main character, but your own. So this one is a really good one. Push it to the front of your purchase list, Miss Hinu. Play it, carve out time for it. Maybe a good solid 60 hours. Would you say, JDM? About 60 hours? Solid, you know,
Yeah, maybe 50 or 60 hours,
50 or
depending
60 hours. Yeah.
on how much
Mm-mm.
uh, like time you would like
Mm-mm.
to play it. Because
Yes. Mm-hmm.
as for me, I get bored, or
Mm-hmm.
what they call this, like uh, if I play this for a whole 4 hours straight, it might get
Uh-huh.
um I might
Burnout.
get bored, burned out.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Dan Faulkner in the chats definitely says, "Yeah, sorry, Sir Joe, you can't shag anyone in Planescape Torment. They're all undead anyway, so bits would fall
Uh,
off." Yeah, that's
this is
true. That's
not
very true.
Mass Effect, guys.
Although Morte would consider it, right? Right, Dan Morte would consider it the floating skull that
Yeah,
kind of talks all the time.
this is the first, actually the first
Mm,
party member that joins you in
mm,
your quest.
that's
And by
true.
the way, Planescape is an actual rule set
Yes,
here
yes,
for
in D and
the
D. Mm,
Forgotten Realms.
yes,
So it's called Planescape because it's a multiverse.
yes.
Once again, we're back in the multiverse. So, anyways, a
It's
Planescape.
fascinating.
Yeah,
The world building in Planescape is fascinating. It's it's the universe of doors where anything can be a door, like a certain canticle or a certain song can be a door, an alleyway can be a door, two sticks put together leaning together in a forest can be a door, and you end
Fundador,
up, yeah,
Emperador.
and they think about it, drinking wine and then you falling asleep can be a
mm,
door, and you find yourself here in the world of Planescape, and you are ruled by the Lady of Pain. So it's a very scary place to be. It is, some people get lost in it forever. They find themselves there and they never find their way out. It's a fascinating rule set. It's a fascinating world. It's quite amazing, honestly. Good choice, JDM. And
by the way,
mm,
I found a very interesting comment
mm.
here from Orange Coffee here on Twitch.
Ah, okay.
He said, another game that didn't have a sequel is Nox, which is
Ah, good choice.
somehow
Good
kind
choice. Mm,
like this game, but it's
mm,
much more of a what they call this, Diablo
mm.
2 kind of gameplay.
Yes.
It's a dungeon crawler, um, RPG,
Mm,
hack and slash RPG,
yes. Mhm.
which also didn't see um sequel. It was made by Westwood Studios, the one who
Mhm.
made the Red
Command and
Alert,
Conquer Red Alert.
Command and Conquer Red
Yes.
Alert.
There you go. Westwood was great back in the day. They were amazing. They produced some really, really good games. And this one, I have to remember. I have to say, Nox really did make an impact on me too.
Yeah.
It was a nice little Diablo clone. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's too bad it didn't have a sequel or didn't have
Mm.
anything that came after it. It was a good game. It was a very good
Yeah.
game too. Good choice,
No,
Orange Coffee. Mhm.
Nox is like an isekai game where this
Yeah, that's
boy got
true. That is
transported
true.
to, and I really like the equipments that you get in
Mm,
the game.
mm,
Those items that are, what's it called,
mm.
anachronism, like
Oh yeah.
it
Mm-mm.
it's not supposed to be in that
Yeah, exactly.
timeline.
Ooh, yeah.
It's,
And
you
it,
can see like Chuck
mm,
Taylor shoe in
mm.
this game
Oh yeah.
as an equipment. You can use like a
Mm-mm.
stun rod or something like
Yes.
that, which
Yeah, that's
doesn't
true.
really, I don't think, exist in a medieval
Yes, that's true.
setting.
If for those of you who would like to delve into the weirder parts of the internet, they are called out of place artifacts. So if you
Mm,
want to check out, those weird, strange conspiracy theory type of websites, which I sometimes do, you check out, you Google out of place artifacts, and you will
yeah,
have yourself a grand time. All
yeah.
right, excellent choice, JDM. Yes, you were about to say very quickly before we move
It
on.
reminds me of what damn movie was that? A League
Uh-huh.
of Extraordinary
Oh, League of
Gentlemen,
Extraordinary
when
Gentlemen. Do not knock
they
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I love the comic books. I love the movie. No matter what anybody says, I love League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
you
Okay.
love
Mm.
What's that?
Anachronisms, yes. I love
Sean
anachronisms.
Connery in that
I love Sean
in that
Connery there
movie.
too. Yeah, amazing performance. Let's move on. Let's check out Miss Porter. If Miss Porter is there, Miss Enslin Porter, she is going to be discussing her choice of one-hit wonder games. Thanks very much for joining us, Miss Porter. I know you were a little busy, but the fact that you took the time to take to come up and relay to us your one-hit wonder game, let's hear it.
I'm glad to have been able to catch up on this episode. I only have one choice for the one hit wonder.
Mm,
It is the game Grim Fandango. If
yes.
any of you are familiar with it, I bet you
Absolutely.
are.
Yes.
It was a game released in 1998, published by LucasArts for Windows.
When
Um,
LucasArts was good. Okay.
yes, when it still existed, basically.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it was a computer game, but then in 2014, with the help from Sony, it
Mm.
got a remaster from the production company of the creator, Tim Schafer. Because, we know there is the Disney acquisition of LucasArts, so that's it took quite some time for a remaster. Imagine that's 1998, then 2014. So if anybody's interested, this is now available on Steam, PlayStation 4, Android, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox One. So this is an adventure game with puzzle
Also
elements.
on GOG, Miss Eileen, never forget, good old
Um,
games, GOG.com. Grim Fandango Remastered is also on GOG. Anyway, continue, Miss Eileen.
DRM free.
yeah,
DRM free, absolutely.
get it on
DRM
GOG.
SUCKS. Anyway, continue.
FUDRM.
FUDRM. Yes, absolutely. Very good. Okay, Miss continue, Miss Eileen.
So this is an adventure game with puzzle elements. By the way, I am talking about this in the perspective of a new player of this game and from someone who is playing this on the remastered version. So the story is divided into four parts each year. I mean, these four parts are equivalent to 1 year, each happening on the Day of the Dead. You start out as the character Manny Calavera. He is working as a Grim Reaper, which is actually what they call a
A
dead
travel
travel
agent.
agent in the afterlife. He is stuck in this job due to a sin that he did while he was still alive, and he is working off a debt. So first of all, not sure if you're familiar, but I bet many of you have seen his face. The actor Tony Plana.
Mm.
He is a very seasoned actor, going back way in the 80s. He is voicing the main character Manny.
Mm.
So this game is story rich. It will keep you interested. The dialogues are fully voice acted. It
Yes.
is well written and like modern games, it has fun conversation trees. The backgrounds, as you can see, there are pretty beautiful. Uh,
Yes.
think about Final Fantasy VII because it came out.
Pre-rendered,
Yes,
pre-rendered backgrounds, right? Yeah, that
Mm-mm.
looks good.
Mm-mm.
right. It looks very beautiful. So the remastered version, you can actually toggle switching between the two. When
Mm.
you come from the original to the remastered, the only change you'll see is actually Manny. The background stays the same, so you can see how this game aged quite well because they didn't need to change the background. It's just the characters. That's all they needed to change for the visuals because it's that beautiful. So again, this game is like I said earlier, it's puzzle. Not sure if you could see there because it's still a dialogue. When he
Mm.
walks to near an object of interest, unlike other games, there will be like hint cursor.
Mm.
But in
Mm.
this one, maybe he's walking, then suddenly his head tilts on an object
Yes.
of interest. It isn't actually hinting you to a thing that will lead you to solve a puzzle, but it's
Mm.
more on
A point of
leading
interest.
you, yes, a point of interest that you can interact with. It
Mm-mm.
doesn't necessarily solve something, but it's quite interesting when you try uh, going to the direction he's looking at. It's quite
That's hilarious. I love the fact that he looked at the bed. Because everybody's a skeleton in this world, and he looks at the bed and says, lots of stains for somebody with no bodily fluids. It's just hilarious. I mean, I love this game. This game is amazing. Great choice, Miss Eileen. The fact is,
slowly.
it it's a throwback to amazing classic point and click
Yes.
adventure games. And this, I would venture to argue, this is the pinnacle of adventure games, point and click adventure games. We're talking like, there were great games, point and click adventure games like King's Quest, Quest for Glory,
Broken Sword.
Police Quest, Zack McCracken and everything, where you kind of move your mouse around and the icon changes into an eye or a hand to
Mm.
see whether it's something that you can see, something that you can interact with, it, something that you can talk about. But this, we're talking like the sheer interactivity of the game itself, and how, like, Manny tilts his head to see a point of interest, how he throws out such funny lines, how, the funny, crazy ways that he can interact with these things as they combine.
True.
Honestly, I can't say enough great things about Grim Fandango. But please continue, Miss Eileen. What makes Grim Fandango unique and special to you as a one-hit wonder? As a one-hit wonder.
Well, as you always know, it's the art that
Mm,
first catches my eye,
mhm,
and I enjoy like Day of the Dead themed uh, things, for
mhm.
lack of a better term.
La
Um,
Muerte Dia, if I remember correctly, right? The
Yeah.
Mexican Day of the Dead. This really
Dia de
just
los Muertos.
Diez Muertos. I'm terrible with Spanish, but yeah, the fact is, this one really, they
Yeah,
did
beautiful graphics.
amazing things with the art direction. Continue, Miss Eileen.
Yes. So I found that there were several elements of the Day of the Dead here. Well, first of
Mm,
all, you can see the skeletons, the Kalaka, that is the festive skeleton,
mm,
and just the main character, Manny Calavera. Calavera actually means the decorative skulls in the Day of the Dead
mm,
Mm.
festivities, and it's not shown there, but there are piñatas,
mm.
and there is also the papel picado. The what we call in Filipino banderitas, but they
Yes.
are papers with cut
Mm,
designs in them. So it's very nice to see, and it's very colorful. Then
yes.
there's also a character with the surname Ofrenda, which
Mm,
is the altar that Mexicans put photos of their
the, the,
loved
this,
ones who have
yeah,
passed.
yes, the deceased
You
loved ones. Yes.
you know what I like about the how they celebrate the dead. It's
Mm,
joyous. It's
Yes.
like they go back to the memories
mm.
when that person was still alive. Like in was it in what's that movie
The Book
from
of Life.
the Book of Life
Mm,
and
Coco.
Coco, yeah.
Coco,
Coco is
yeah.
also good. Yes. Hmm.
They always unlike here in the Philippines, it's always um
Somber,
yeah,
sad.
Solemn.
Mm,
yeah, they go to the cemetery and like they cry or they weep. Then it's the opposite
Really?
it's the opposite in Mexico when they do the Day of the Dead. It's like a celebration.
mm.
Yes.
Very
I,
true. Very true. Hmm.
well, one thing that okay, yeah, I do remember that when I'm going to my dad's hometown,
Hmm.
during the All Saints Day and All Souls Day, I do remember that the gatherings are normally very solemn. But then when we moved cities and we had to go to a different cemetery here for a different family member, I was actually shocked because I see a lot of tents, people bringing food, lots of music, lots of kids running around, and they were treating it as a celebration. People were staying over the night celebrating
Mm.
during the Day of the Dead here. I was like, oh, I kind of like this version more than the
Mhm.
very solemn one because it also serves like like a mini family reunion.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, for Mexico, they spend that time with each other, relieving the good memories. And I do hope that that's a culture that we can
Mhm.
copy or adapt because it definitely sounds more fun
Mhm.
when you
Yeah.
celebrate it that way.
Mhm. That's true. Well, I've always said that during my funeral, I don't want people laughing. I don't want people crying. I want people laughing. I want people remembering the funny jokes that I did, the good times that I provided them, the happy memories that we had. For my for my funeral, that's what I'm putting that out there in this podcast right now. Okay, everybody who knows me, I don't want any crying in my funeral. I want laughter. I want good food. I want games. I want people saying, Joel was great. He impacted our lives so well. I am going to tell his story forever. That is what I want for me once I pass on. And actually, yes, back to Miss Eileen's point, this is the culture of Grim Fandango. It is a celebration of who who went on ahead before us, and how they achieved their, well, shall we say, their afterlife, right, Miss Eileen?
Yes.
There you go. So, yeah, excellent choice, Miss Eileen. Really, really good choice. Was there a final word that you can say about Grim Fandango? Encourage people
Well,
to
I
buy
could
it.
say
Go ahead.
this is a game that uses tank controls.
Yeah, okay, Joe is gonna hate this then.
Controls, tank controls, which I found really useful because in several parts of the, well, not map, but the levels or the scenes, there are frequent camera changes.
Mhm.
I thought switching between the camera relative and tank controls, I felt that the tank was actually better because
Yeah.
if you're
Tank
using
controls never useful ever.
That's it. Joe has a personal beef with tank controls. Okay.
tank controls are
Tank
good.
controls and inverted controls deserve a place in hell.
No, as they say, good. Sorry,
Oh,
that's
there
fine.
you go. But yes, it's I mean, which is in the domain of Manny Calavera, heaven and hell.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. Well, so yes, excellent choice, Miss Eileen. Grim Fandango, like Dan Faulkner says in the chats, Grim Fandango was just so ridiculously original on release. It hit me in the face as Casablanca on computer when I first saw it,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
is exactly the
Yeah.
feel that Grim Fandango was going for. It captures it. Aside from, of course, the obvious, which is Manny Calavera's outfit, the white suit and
It,
everything. But
it kind of reminds me of LA Noir, though.
LA
Kind
Yeah.
Noir,
of.
yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah, very true, very true.
That
Excellent.
is also one that needs. I'm not sure that needs, but that is also a masterpiece that does not have a sequel.
All
Yeah.
right, very good, excellent. Now let's get to Joe and his choice of a one-hit wonder, and afterwards we'll do a speed round very quickly. Each one will throw out a really good choice of a first runner-up. Very quick description, very quick recommendation as to why that game is their first runner-up of one-hit wonder. First is Joe. Let's hear his choice of one-hit wonder. Joe.
Oh. For my game, I chose. I mentioned this game before, but but out of all of the games that I've played and finished, I think this needs a little bit more context into it. It's Eternal Sonata for the PlayStation
Mhm.
3.
Yes. Eternal Sonata.
So let me
Excellent.
just do that.
And, and like
Uh,
Joe pointed out, I think it also came out on Xbox too. I could be wrong on
Xbox,
the number.
yeah,
Yeah.
Xbox 360. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So okay, I'm just putting it up there. So
Mhm,
Eternal Sonata,
mhm.
not to be confused with Winter Sonata. Ha ha
Eh,
ha. Okay, so with Eternal Sonata, of course, it's a Japanese role-playing game, like we mentioned earlier. Oh, originally released for the Xbox 360
mhm,
back in 2007,
mhm,
and then later on the PlayStation 3. Developed by Tricrescendo and published by Namco Bandai. The PlayStation 3 had some notable changes like additional playable characters, additional dungeons, and a more balanced dungeon difficulty in comparison with the Xbox 360. Because apparently in the 360 version, sometimes some dungeons have easier combat against enemies, and then all of a sudden, if you go to another dungeon, it just amps the ante by 10 levels. Um, so the game centers around the late great Polish musical composer Frederick Chopin. Some people say it's Chopin.
Mm.
Kind of grinds
No,
my gears when people
it's
say that.
Chopin. Yeah, like the
It's
80s
Chopin.
song goes. I like Chopin. There you go.
All right.
Mhm,
It's a reimagination of the last moments of his deathbed.
mhm.
Spoilers: he's gonna die, of course. Well,
He's dead.
uh,
He's been dead for
yeah,
hundreds of years. Anyway. Okay.
hundreds of years.
Okay.
And so in his stuporous state,
Mhm,
so he dreamt of meeting a blonde girl named Polka,
mhm,
girl that you see in the footage right there,
mhm,
and he agreed on helping her with her certain condition.
mhm,
Along the way, they will meet other colorful characters and visiting other places until Frederick himself discovers that his real purpose. Why is he there in this fantasy world that he himself has dreamt of? The combat system is traditional turn-based. You can control three characters of in your active party out of 9 to 12 characters. Well, a little bit more on the PlayStation 3 anyway. If you're gonna play on that system, and what else? The unique aspect of the gameplay would be the special moves of each character can pull off, depending if they are standing under a dark environment, like for example, like a shadow, or under a bright environment, like for example, like if you are battling on a plane and it's sunny. Yeah, so all of the moves that you can perform will be light based moves. If you're fighting in the evening, all the moves that you can perform are dark related moves. So we mentioned it's made by Tricrescendo, and the soundtrack is something that the game boasts about, as it uses compositions made by Frederick Chopin himself. And as far as the reason why Eternal Sonata did not get a sequel, despite the praises and the accolades it got, it was nominated. It was nominated JRPG of the year, RPG of the year. It so with this, it lost to Mass Effect,
mhm.
unfortunately, um, during the Game Awards. And I'm like, bullshit, Mass Effect. All right. And so with so I could not find any written documentation that pertains to why the developmental team didn't come up with a sequel to this, because it's quite unique actually, story wise. But if I have to guess, the studio behind Eternal Sonata, which is Tricosendo, just wanted to focus more on making video game music than actually making video games themselves. So what does that mean? So the developmental studio of Eternal Sonata, Tricosendo, originally came from Tri-Ace, who worked for the First Star Ocean games and the Valkyrie Profile games, right?
Mhm.
And the founders of Tricosendo were Hiroya and Motoi Sakuraba. Hiroya Hatsushiba is the one who directed this game and also who wrote this game. So he came up with this game, Hatsushiba-san. And before forming Tricrescendo, Hatsushiba is a sound programmer by trade, and his partner, Mr. Sakuraba, is a musical composer. So
Mm.
it goes without saying that they share an interest on classical music. With his experience working with other game developers in Japan and how role playing games were booming in the late 90s and the early 2000s, he figured, okay, maybe I should write up my own role playing game, see if I like it, see how that turns out. Um, but I'm gonna encompass my love for music into this. So during the planning stage of Eternal Sonata, out of all of the classical composers they could have went with, Rather than going with Beethoven, rather than going with Mozart, Tchaikovsky, they chose Chopin as the main focus of the story. Um, Out of all of the classical composers of Europe during the 17th or the 17th and the 18th century, and I'm guessing probably based on on Chopin's internal and external conflict when he was alive, that they went with his story. So according to Hatsushiba, I'm reading an excerpt from one of the interviews that he gave out. According to him, people who play games and people who love classical music and are not necessarily sharing the same type of interests. Most people in Japan know the name of Frederick Chopin. However, most of the people who know of Chopin think he's just some kind of a great musical composer without knowing any more about him. So most of them have heard Chopin's music, but not a lot could put his name into it immediately. So by creating a colorful fantasy world of Chopin's dream, according to him, he was hoping that people would get into this game easily and also come to know how great Chopin's music was.
Mhm. And it
And
was great music. It was great music.
it
Trust
was
me.
great music.
Mhm.
Eternal Sonata came out for the Xbox 360 uh, in PlayStation 3, um, 2007 and 2008, I believe, and then Tricrescendo moved on to other video game projects after that.
Mhm.
So if you are going to look at Tricrescendo's activities over the years after they came out with Eternal Sonata, Tricrescendo partnered more with other gaming studios, mostly to be in charge of sound development. For
Mhm.
example, after Eternal Sonata, they were involved with the latter Tales of Games and the Smash Brothers as well. So they're there. And if there was any chances of the game having a sequel, furthermore, was if Eternal Sonata will sell more than Tricrescendo projected. After 1 year of release, I think the Xbox 360 sold about 70,400 copies, while the PS3 version sold about 53,300 copies overall, both in Japan only. And we're not even talking about the international release in the West. But of course, this is Japan, of course. So perhaps the domestic numbers were, they were looking for the domestic numbers, were not enough to satisfy the need for a sequel, despite the majority of players liking their first attempt with Eternal Sonata. And to my knowledge, the only other game that they actually came out with was Digimon World Redigitized for the PlayStation Portable and the 3DS back in 2012. And after 10 years after that, ever since then, Tricrescendo has yet to develop any games of their own. It's always them partnering with other studios. Oh, we'll do your sound design because Hiroshiba and Sakuraba, musical composers, designers,
Yeah.
musical designers by trade. So they were
I
more into music than actually making video
yeah.
games.
I remember
Based on what I observed. Right?
Motoi Sakuraba is also the composer for a lot of Camelot software games like
Yeah, they did.
um,
Camelot.
Shining Force, Golden Sun, and even Beyond the Beyond. And what I really like with Motoi Sakuraba's music is it's always classical, and he loves his rhythm in these games. He loves the sound of the bass drum and the rolling of the snare drums. So it's like a marching. It's a marching song. It's one of his like trademarks when making music.
Okay. Well, a good choice, Joe. The fact is, If you, ironically, the 80s song "I Love Chopin" has no Chopin beats or music into it. Sad to say, but if you wanted to listen to some of Chopin's music, you can download those compilations easily. The classical music for people who hate classical music, you can download that. You can listen to Chopin's music. It's a great introduction. This game is a great introduction to his music, who the man was, and in general, some people might deride it as one as a typical JRPG, but no. The thing is, it's a JRPG is an experience. Any game is an experience, and the entire premise of Internal Sonata, from my recollection, is experiencing the a world that can be formed in your mind and in your heart using somebody's music. So I'd say this is a good this is a good one hit wonder. To kind of define a one hit wonder, essentially, yes, because of the fact that it is musical, and that one hit wonders bind in music as well. So yes, Eternal Sonata for PS3, also on Xbox 360. Good choice,
I
I'd
would
say.
also, if there's one thing that more that I can add.
Mm-mm.
I read some of the forums saying that some people, they didn't really like the story progression of
Mm,
this. The
yeah.
characters were not as deep. There were not much of a development between their interactions.
Mhm.
And looking back, I'm like, if they understood that this is all in Chopin's head,
Yes. Mm.
they were never really meant to be more than what they were. I
Mhm.
mean, all of these were just figments of his imagination. And I'm like, I mean, I mean, I'm like if I'm in my deathbed and I am basically imagining characters in my mind,
Mhm.
must should I also come up with their backstories?
No, in the end, I think he was. I think the premise is that Japan. These are the last moments of somebody who is about to pass on, and I guess he was thinking about archetypes.
Oh yeah,
The premise is that he's thinking about archetypes, characters that are going off on a grand adventure. The characters don't have to have very deep motivations or who they are or backstories or things like that. It's just one, to use Bilbo's words in the final part of the Lord of the Rings. I'm off on another adventure. So there.
it is a little bit hard as well. I mean, I'm trying to understand what where they're coming from.
Hmm.
Uh, when they try to criticize the narrative of this game,
Hmm.
and I'm like, uh, uh, based on what Sakuraba was aiming for here,
Hmm.
is that they're trying to make a fantasy world, but making sure it also respects Japan's history.
Hmm.
Um, during according to them, at the time of Japan's death, so
Hmm.
he was only 39 years old when he
Hmm.
died of tuberculosis,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Hmm.
And at this time, when his music was gaining more popularity, he was already away from Poland, away from his homeland,
Hmm.
and he had if my history is correct, he had a sick sister.
Hmm.
And based on this game, it they took some aspects of Chafan's life into consideration. Like for example, Polka
Hmm.
suffers from a certain illness.
Hmm.
That was their association with Chafan's actual sister who was
Yeah.
sick.
Hmm.
The external struggles of different nations portrayed on this game was Chafan's inner turmoil when he was away from Poland during the 18th century, when things got bad over Eastern Europe. So I mean, it it's kind of deep if you're really gonna think about it. If you're looking at it at a surface level, then yes,
Yeah.
but the more it's like you you you'll have more appreciation of this game if you know about Japan's life. Then you can understand why they went with certain directions that they did here. And it would have been great if Strike Crescendo did other if they would do like a sequel to this game. How about another musical composer? Go with
Hmm.
Beethoven, go with Mozart, go with
Hmm.
Tchaikovsky, and you know what I mean. They don't have to go. They don't have to go 17th, 18th century Europe. They can also go on another century of other
Mm.
great composers out there. They can
Mm.
reimagine. They can reimagine their life on more of a fantastical world, just like this one, right? So yeah.
Yeah, completely
Um,
agree. I mean, it is a rich, it is a potentially rich mine to explore. And for those who are brave enough, they can venture into this game and kind of imagine what can be, I guess, for a brave developer to want to jump into a sequel to this. Who knows? You never know. I mean, in the modern world where video games can have unexpected sequels, or unexpected spiritual successors, it can come to
according,
pass, Joe. Hmm.
Sir Drew
Hmm.
Bernal,
Yeah.
said that when he played Eternal Sonata, it always
Hmm.
make him sleepy. And I'm like, he, and I'm like, perhaps he didn't have the right party members at that time.
Could be.
I'm guessing he must have played the first 2 hours of the game, and he hasn't even gotten the rest of the characters because uh,
Mm-mm.
it, 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 it it's a slow burn, to be honest. Really,
Mm.
it's a slow burn until you get Allegretto and Bit after the second hour. That that you can play that you can have some a little bit more leeway on the move set that you can perform.
Not right.
Mm.
Mm.
They can perform super moves here. The magic,
Mhm.
light, sounds, everything. It's very stellar.
Mhm.
Pretty fitting for a PlayStation 3 graphics. Shell
Mhm.
shading.
All right. So we that was an excellent choice, Joe. Eternal Sonata for originally for 360. I was really glad when it came out on PS3. So we come to hour two, and we come to the what I call the speed round of the second half of the show. We come to the runner-ups. Very quickly, we describe why we like them, the interesting things about them, and why we recommend them. But first things first, we would like to say hi to Screws Loose here on Twitch, who recommends Shadow of the Colossus. Excellent shout, Screws Loose. Very, very good. And I admit it was one of the games that I considered putting forward as a one-hit wonder. Uh, but if I remember correctly, it also has Ico, which relatively was successful. I could be wrong on that one. And we'd like to say hi to Christopher Abestado here on Facebook, who asks, was Bloodborne already mentioned? Not yet, no. But I kind of discount Bloodborne because of the fact of it's part of an entire mm, genre called the Soulsborne, I guess, genre. So I can't really say it's a one hit wonder. It kind of is part of an entire genre in itself, and I can't really say that it is something that is more of a one hit wonder, unique, that doesn't have a sequel, that does not have anything successful connected to it afterwards. So it's a good recommendation, Christopher Abestado, but I'm not, me personally, I wouldn't put it as a one-hit wonder, but it's a good choice. It's a good game. So now we come to the speed round. Dan Faulkner saying, seeing as most of Chopin's live performances were with Liszt, I'd love to see a game starring Liszt. Plus, my favorite piece of classical music is the Hungarian Rhapsody Number Two. Good choice, good choice, Dad. I would say, in my case, my favorite piece, well, of course, is the forever well-known Mozart piece. Everybody knows it. I completely, and now it's playing in my head now, but I completely forgot the title.
Can you
It
imagine? Can you
yeah,
imagine
yeah.
Mozart or Beethoven fighting with
Oh
swords
yeah.
and
I mean,
performing magic?
heck, I would play a game
There's
like
actually a
that.
visual novel about that.
They would use music as their magic spells, something like
Right.
that. Musical parts of their music as the magical spell that they, a
They
very
did it
quick
here in
piece.
Eternal Sonata, really.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly. Yeah.
if they could do it
Mhm.
here, they could do it with anyone.
Exactly. Okay, so now
Could
we come to the speed
sway
round.
their buttons like this.
I mean, heck, why
Squiggle.
not? Now I am putting forward
Wait, how
my
does this
first.
work?
Which one?
Are the-
Which
is,
one?
is this the second game, or are
Yes,
these runner-ups separate from?
this is the second game. We're
The
gonna make
second
this
game.
quick, very quick round, as in like one or two statements as to why it's good. Why would you recommend it? What makes it unique as a one-hit wonder? All right, my second choice of one-hit wonder. Joe, please put it up. It's called Split Second. It's a game that came out on PS3 and PS2. Also came out on Xbox 360. It is a racing game. I've been playing racing games recently, and it is it is a genre that I'm starting to delve into. But this is a racing game that I started playing long ago, and I guess it kind of gave the seed to why I started playing racing games. Now, Split Second is a racing game that has a very unique premise. It's not just racing across very quickly from end to end, track to track. It is set inside of a television show, and people are watching you race, and you have the ability to trigger explosions that actually change the entire landscape of where you're racing. An explosion can level a building, make sure that whoever is behind you smashes into that building and explodes. That an explosion can make sure that a plane that is tilting, sorry, a cruise ship that is tilting sideways will run across the entire dock and wipe out anybody who is in front of you. An explosion can you can trigger an explosion that will change the route completely, so that the route that you took one lap ahead will is not the exact same one. So it is a television show. It is a unique racing game that has a television show. The more tricks that you pull off, swerves, slides, jumps, and everything, will build a meter that will enable you to do power plays, which are bigger and badder and more exciting explosions. You always try to get to be number one in the race. And it came out on PlayStation 3, which was visually stunning, but it also came out on PSP. Honestly, it is one of those things that you would say, I'm not into racing games, but I played this and I enjoyed the heck out of it. Honestly, I everybody to this very day still wants a sequel to this game. It's called Split Second, and anybody who sees it in action and sees how it is played in actuality will say, "Dang, where is? I wish there was more of this." And when they find out that it never came out with a sequel or anything of the sort, they say, "Why?" And again, this is split. It is stylized as split slash second. So if you are looking for a great game, racing game, very quick pick me up and play game that is kind of like one of those reality shows that was very popular in the early 2000s. This is the game to pick up. It's really cheap. You can find it on the PlayStation Store or on the Xbox Store, if I remember correctly. You can also find it on Steam. You can also find it on your local retro game stores. Pick it up for cheap, play it, enjoy it. Honestly, you will not regret it. Split
Mm.
Second. Uh, that's my recommendation. Any
Ye-
thoughts, very quickly?
So this is like Michael Bay and Jerry Bruckheimer in
Mm.
Adrenaline
Oh,
Rush. With
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Perfect explanation,
explosions.
JDM. Yes, exactly. Very good. Very good. Very good comparison. Jerry Bruckheimer. I might as well toss in a little bit of John Woo in there too, because there's slow motion sequences too.
Yeah,
Really
John
good.
Woo.
John Woo. Very good.
Oh, no, no, no. Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder. Okay,
Ah,
fine. Zack Snyder's cool. Yeah, but John Woo will always be best when it comes to the slow mo effects for me. So there. So split slash second, or split second as I like to call it, on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PSP. Get it, enjoy it, play it, explode everything. Trust me on this one. It is a good game. All right. Next person on the list. Who's brave enough to follow up on that?
Let's go with Miss Hino.
Miss Hino, let's hear your very quick speed round second choice.
Right. So since Joel mentioned like a racing game, I
Mm,
have a Simpsons Road Rage. I actually wanted to go
yes.
for Hit and Run, but I don't have a
Mhm,
copy of it. So, Road Rage. If
mhm,
anyone is familiar with the Crazy Taxi games, it's very similar to this, except it's set on the Simpsons world. So, you can drive as the various characters. You either take the citizens to and from destinations, you make deliveries and whatnot, and there are tons of collectibles throughout the map. some mini missions, some timed missions. So it's really up to you if you just want to wreak havoc, not really drop off your customers to whichever destination you want them to go to. It's just an overall fun game, and I guess you can also say it's kind of open world
Mm.
since the map is very large. I can see here that we have over 30 characters, six huge maps,
Areas.
and of
Mhm.
course, a variety of vehicles. So there are some really wacky vehicles I remember in this game. So one hit wonder, unfortunately. People believe that the reason why this game never had a sequel is because the developer who made this um, didn't have the rights anymore for the
Yes.
game.
Mhm.
I do hope that eventually, we get a
Because
remaster for it
Disney owns
along with a
Simpsons
hit and
now.
run.
Yes, that's true. Disney owns The Simpsons now, and we all know how bad of a company Disney is. But continue, Miss Hino.
But they do have the dosh
Yeah, they
to
do have the
revive
dosh.
franchises.
Yeah, but they
They do
won't.
that.
But they won't. I mean, heck, the fact
They
is they
won't.
don't even want to pay royalties to the expanded universe of Star Wars. That's why they scrapped the entire thing. They're making their own new universe now, and it doesn't make sense. How can you have a campfire in space, which is what came out in the
Don't,
Acolyte? I hear
don't,
right now.
don't,
Anyway,
don't
continue.
get me started with Star Wars. Stop.
Okay, there you go. All right, so this is Miss Hinu's second choice. The Simpsons Road Rage, Crazy Taxi esque, very good gameplay, and honestly, I played this too. Really enjoyable. If anybody is interested in a very fast-paced, semi-open world game where you can take your passengers requests as just mere suggestions. You don't even have to drop him off where he wants to be. You just drop him off
Yeah, you can
wherever.
drive a school bus, a bulldozer, just
Exactly.
different wacky vehicles. So tons
Mhm.
of fun.
The
What
tons
is
of
that?
fun. Excellent. Yeah,
Uh,
JDM.
uh, what's that movie with
Mhm.
Taxi Driver? Was it Taxi Driver or
Oh yeah, I
Collateral
think
with
so. Oh no,
it?
Taxi Drivers with
Al
Robert De
Pacino.
Niro. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. There you go. Yeah, but
So
it's a
this is basic. So this is Crazy Taxi and Grand Theft Auto combined.
yes, a good good explanation for it. And we have Drew. We have Drew coming in for
Hey
the speed
guys.
run. Very good, Drew Bernal coming
Yeah,
in for the
a little
speed
bit
run.
late, a little bit late
That's
because
perfectly
of
fine. As we say in the Philippines, better
um,
late than never mind. Right there, you go. Excellent, excellent. So and since you're here, Drew, I want to hear your very quick round pick as to what your one-hit wonder choice is. What is it?
well, it's
Why is it your choice? And do you think what will tell you what do you tell people who want to check it out? Go ahead.
my one hit wonder choice for this evening has to be Sky Super Caja. One
Sky.
of the most beloved and yeah, Sky Super Caja, really really awesome cult classic that everybody has been raving about. Anybody who has ever played it has raved about it, and simply because it is one of those feel good JRPGs that was home to one of the most beloved the most one of the most beloved Sega consoles, which was the Sega Dreamcast. And
Mhm.
one of the things that people really got interested and nostalgic and really got into Sky Super Cage is the airship battles, which is a little bit not just a little bit, but a really huge refresher in terms of the JRPG formula, because not only do you have the regular turn-based battle system, you also have this airship battles wherein you do not really choose your actions per round. I mean, there's a round wherein you have a certain grid where you could be choosing which set of actions you would be planning out your airship to undertake, which is what you would be seeing here on the screen right here. And also, when it comes to JRPGs and Sega, this is the first one that always comes to my mind. I've been port begging for this because I want to relieve the adventure with Vice, with uh with Drachma and the two girls. I'm gonna butcher this because
Mm.
it's Fina, and
I got.
oh my god, I got okay. Thank you, Sir Joe. Thank you so much. When it comes to waifus, you could always count on Sir Joe.
Yes,
Anyway,
absolutely. Joy is a treasury of waifus. Okay, there you
I'm
go.
a man of culture, just like
Yes,
you
he
guys.
is.
yes, that's a man of culture, absolutely.
Mm-mm.
Anyway, well, the game is not all pros when there's big glaring thing that people have been complaining about Skies of Arcadia is that the the random encounter is just placed on is on 11. You just keep on getting and
Mm-mm.
getting this random encounters that you can't really, the moment you just move a little bit forward, you get a random encounter on it. But
Mm-mm.
the battle system itself is a huge draw for this game, because besides the airship battles, you get the regular battles wherein you could continuously, without taking up your turn, you could change the element of your weapon.
Mm-mm.
And also, it's a little bit cliche, but it feels somewhat like the story of Granja. It's a little bit upbeat. I know it's the big conundrum is there,
Mm-mm.
but and the story itself is like getting the power of the crystals, and going on an adventure with poor people in your party. So this sounds like classic Final Fantasy story on it, but it's the delivery and the presentation, the world building, and the way that when you're in your airship, you could go up and down, the sense of discovery. Not only are you trying to find a la Wild Arms, like just like Wild Arms, you're trying to keep pressing a button to find certain things in the overworld,
Mm-mm.
and it deserves all the praise that it's getting. It just needs a little bit quality of life improvements, but there are some things that were improved when it got re-released in the GameCube, since Dreamcast sadly was discontinued, and luckily Nintendo got the ports for most of the beloved games from Sega, if we're in the Sega Dreamcast. But the reason why, anyway, I'm gonna go to the reason why this is just a one hit wonder, and why it won't be able to get its sequel, is because the producer of this game, which is Miss Reiko, she has passed away last 2022,
Um,
if I remember it correctly. So there's a very slim chance that this game could ever get a sequel. But even though it is just one of the handful of JRPGs that were localized to the West from the Dreamcast console, it's still pretty much placed the Dreamcast in the JRPG scene just by this title alone. And
mm,
that's it for my one hit wonder, Skies of Arcadia. For any JRPG enthusiast who has not played the game, the visual still holds up, but the problem with this is it's gonna break your bank to be able to get this
mm,
legally. It's really gonna break your bank. And the only version that I got on of this is the Eternal Arcadia, which is the title of the Japanese version. Sadly, the
mm,
Japanese copy does not have full English language support, but just to be able to own this and put it on my library, since I just want it. Well, hopefully we get a port or something if ever Sega does something about this. But the characters are very colorful, very memorable.
mm,
Although I did mess the names of the girls up, but
mm.
Drachma is awesome. I really love Drachma, and that's it. That's
All right.
my TLDR for Skies of Arcadia.
Excellent, excellent. Dan Faulkner says, "Skies of Arcadia, what a game!" And let's see. Christopher Abistada says, "Actually, this is kind of interesting. I wanted to try that game, but I never got the chance to. I'm not sure if the sequel of that is nostalgia or in Nintendo DS or inspired by it. I kept seeing that game. I never got the chance to actually play it. I might line that up in the near future. Now we come to." I love JDM's background on this one. JDM, I love the background that you have on your screen. Absolutely spot on. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And while we have you and the spotlight, tell us very quickly your speed round one hit wonder.
I think I've talked about this game a lot in the previous episode. So,
Mm,
no further ado, very quick. Vagrant Story. I think
Vagrant Story.
Cedro already mentioned it in the chat. So,
Mhm,
Vagrant Story is a game from 2000 for the PS1. It's a story of Ashley Riot, who was accused of murdering the Duke of Leomond.
mhm,
Then the setting is a week before the assassination, where he discovered there was this um, cult leader who was running around and summoning these monsters and creating chaos in Leamon. And I think why this game didn't have any sequel is because it
Square
was
Enix.
late in uh,
Square Enix, yeah.
maybe, and they're trying to focus more on the upcoming PS2
Could be.
with
Mm,
the Final Fantasy games or some other games that they have in their queue.
mhm,
So the gameplay is very unique. It's like they have this grid like in Parasite Eve, where you can whenever you have enemies in this within the grid, you can attack it. And he had this variety of weapons that you can use, like the typical swords, pole arms, even crossbows. You can even fight mano a mano.
mm.
And it's really a unique game. Um, I don't know if it's disappointed they didn't do a sequel after all of these years.
Mm.
We've seen a lot of new consoles, but still, it's a great game that deserves a sequel. Especially,
Or at least a remake. You never know, right? Hmm.
yeah, but it's really nice that you can still play this game on newer consoles like the
Hmm.
PS3.
Hmm.
It's still available in the PlayStation Network for the PS3, but not sure with PS4.
Hmm. I mean, it might be in the PlayStation Plus, the service, the subscription service, PlayStation Plus Premium. I wouldn't be surprised if it was in there somewhere. You know, where you can stream the game and play it on your PS5. I mean, heck. We all know that the PS5 definitely needs more games anyway. So, yes, that is JDM's choice of game. Vagrant Story. And we have a lot of discussion in the chats right now. Christopher Abistad says Final Fantasy Tactics FF12 Vagrant Story, same world of Ivalice. And hello, Hobby. Hello. Thanks very much for passing by here on YouTube. Thanks very much at Christopher Abistad. Yes, my favorite world setting in the Final Fantasy franchise, but I effing loathe the advanced world. Okay, well, that's actually a very valid argument. So, Vagrant Story for the PlayStation 1. Excellent, excellent choice, JDM. And I think it's one of the things, one of the hallmarks of one hit wonders. Everybody wishes for a sequel, everybody wishes for a remake. Who knows? It can happen. Now, game developers are starting to realize that modern games are starting to suck. They look at the classics, and they start to mind them for remakes. Now we move on to Miss Eileen. Miss Eileen, do you have a speed round game for one hit wonders? Let's hear it out.
I would say I thought about this for quite some time, I choose Bully. The first game, it is the only game. It was
Ooh.
Bully.
in
Ah.
PlayStation, released in 2006 for the PlayStation 2 by Rockstar Games. So you
Mm,
play as Jimmy James Hopkins, a 15-year-old kid who was dropped by his parents into the Bulworth boarding school by
mm,
his mother, who just remarried, and they were like dropping it like, there you go have a life, we'll get back soon after a year. So they really just left him in his own devices there. He didn't want to be there for sure. This school feels like the school in Matilda, that
mm,
horrible,
Yes.
horrible run school. So this has open world elements because for after some time you will be able to go out of the school and into the town. uh, you traverse high school in this game through different classes of different subjects. You would actually have to pass some tests. Well, not tests, but maybe I remember the chemistry class where you have the flask and whatnot. So there are also various activities, sports, and you could go around the town through, I think, skateboard, bicycle. So this game was developed after Red Dead Redemption 1. So maybe when RDR1 became famous and RDR2's development came underway, maybe the second Bully game was overshadowed because it was actually in the works, but it got canceled. And I think there was actually some playable parts of Bully too.
mm.
I think so. If anybody, for those who enjoy Grand Theft Auto games just like me, this is the game for you. That is in a school setting. So also his goal is there to get first base.
Oh
That's
yeah.
Just first base.
I mean,
yes.
Weak.
That's
Yay.
that's the closest you can get with a girl, holding
mm,
hands while walking,
Just first base.
I mean
and a
that.
peck on the cheek.
Not much of a- No, no. If I'm a bully, okay,
Mm.
I could have done something worse.
Oh yeah, that's true. But let's face it. Let's face it. A great majority of us, way back in high school, had the same mindset. You get to first base, you were already on the moon way back when, and those unique. I guess it kind of appeals. I mean, if you were a real bully back in high school, I'm pretty sure
Hang
you
on.
would have been able to
So,
do a lot more.
so correct me if I'm wrong. First base
Mhm.
is what? French kissing.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah. First base, second base, third base,
second base?
home run.
Boob.
hmm hmm
Third
Yeah.
base, touching
Yeah.
down south,
Yep.
and
Uh huh.
then home
And
run would be
home
all the
run is,
ways.
yeah. Yes.
Sir Joe and his multitude of ways to describe the awesome.
Yes, very
Such,
true, very true. That's how it
such a
works.
nerd when it comes to that subject.
Hey,
Oh,
it's
Christopher
true.
has a question.
Sorry,
He said,
you were saying, Miss Eileen,
Christopher,
go ahead.
Christopher Abestatus says, you mean Red Dead Revolver on PS2?
Mm,
I mean, that is actually before Red Dead Redemption 1, right?
Yeah.
yes.
So I mean the Red Dead. Oh, I'm not sure which one is it. One Bully came after, but yeah,
Mm,
along those timelines of the development of the games. You
mhm.
did a great.
Oh, we have something here from Risk Plays on the YouTube chat. He says, "My one-hit wonder are Plants vs Zombies and Vampire Survivors." Good choice. Although surprisingly,
But
Risk Plays, there is starting to become an industry now on Vampire Survivors type of gameplay. But Plants vs Zombies, good choice
it has a
because
two.
it
Plants
has
vs
it
Zombies
too,
are
but it
prequels,
didn't
right?
It has a
really
two.
yeah, but it didn't really become as successful as the first one. Plants vs. Zombie once is the definition of a one-hit wonder for us is that either it never came out with a sequel or it came out with sequels that, sucked comparative to the first one. So that's
How about Angry Birds though?
Angry Birds actually, yes, I kind of classify Angry Birds as a one-hit wonder too because Angry Birds 1 was iconic. Everybody played Angry Birds. Everybody enjoyed it. Everybody played it. Everybody had it on their cell phones. And, during the times that you would wait, you'd be playing Angry Birds, and there would be many, many other sequels to it, like Angry Birds Star Wars, Angry Birds,
Yeah.
the pigs or whatever that is, Hog Wild or whatnot. But none of them ever came to close to the same level as Angry Birds one. So I would accept that. I would accept Angry Birds. And I would have actually right now a very quick recommendation to Joe because it just hit my head right now very quickly. Infinite Space on the DS. If you were looking for a good RPG that is a one-hit wonder and is amazing when it comes to its depth and unique setting, Infinite Space for DS. And of course, I am throwing out something that is going to challenge everybody's perception of a one-hit wonder. I'm throwing out a game that is before Joe comes in with his choice. I'm going to throw out a very quick a challenge to everybody in terms of the definition of one-hit wonder. I am throwing out, I'm just inserting my very quick play here.
Mhm.
Tetris. I'm throwing out Tetris as a one-hit wonder game. Do you know why? Because of the fact that Alexei Pajitnikov, the developer of Tetris, never came out with a sequel to Tetris that was as good as the very first Tetris. I mean, I can argue that Tetris Effect Connected is a remake and a redevelopment of the original Tetris formula, but other games like Block Out, other games like Hatris, Wordtris, or things like that, none of them ever achieved as good of a success or as big of a success as Tetris was. I classify Tetris as a one-hit wonder, as in the purest sense of the word. Some would also say
If
Minecraft.
you guys want to know more about why it
Mhm.
was such a hit and
Yes.
never made a
Mhm.
sequel, check
Mm-mm.
out our Tetris movie review from
Yes.
way
Mm.
back.
Nice
Absolutely. Yes.
plugging.
Yes, absolutely. Check out the archives here on YouTube and on our Spotify and our audio podcast section. We had an episode discussing the Tetris game movie that discussed the history of the video game. Now we come to the very final and the pinnacle of the one hit wonder library aficionados. Joe, your choice for the speed round of one hit wonders.
Oh, we can do one. We can do Sir Drew one more time.
Oh, one more time. Yeah, that's true. Let's
Yeah,
Drew. One
yeah.
more, a very quick speed round choice for one hit wonders. Drew, let's do one.
Well, my second choice would have to be a little bit out of what I contextually really play, but I really enjoyed this game simply for the pack of its pure violence on this and the stylishness of the violence.
Okay.
The game that I'm talking about is Bulletstorm.
Bulletstorm.
It's
Good
Bulletstorm.
choice.
It's
Yes.
a first person shooter, a really enjoyable shooter that came out in the PlayStation 3 era. I played this in the PC port. I think that's where the first time that I played it. And the reason why I really enjoyed this particular game, which was developed by People Can Fly, the same people that developed the most hated sequel to Gears of War, which is Gears of War Judgment. But I really enjoyed that game anyway. But anyway, going back to Bulletstorm, it's such a stylish game, full of violence, full of gore. But the thing that you would really love about this game is the way that they use each and every weapon, that the archetype of these weapons, that they had stylish points. It's like if a first person shooter was like DMC, this would be it. This would be it because you have some score. As you can see, you
But
can see some
DMC
score
is
here.
actually a first-person shooter. If you think about it.
Yeah, it's a first person shooter which has stylistic points on the way you are killing this grunts, this bosses. This it's like for example, you have the sniper here, wherein when you shoot the bullet, you could actually have control on the trajectory of the bullet, wherein you could practically pierce through multiple enemies. And you have this it's like Jedi Lasso. I forgot the name of this because when I played this, I think it was 10 years ago or more or so, but it still sticks to me to this day because of just how much enjoyment I got out of this, and the sheer amount of swear words mixed in with the stylistic gore, that it's just a thrill ride. It's like comparable to the latest Doom is today. Because before the reboot of Doom, this was the first person shooter that I define with when it comes to stylistic first person shooting killing spree. So if you enjoyed the Doom, the Doom reboot and Doom Eternal, take play this game again, and you could clearly see that there is somewhat. I know Doom inspired is the godfather of first person shooters, and it inspired this in turn, but this game I think inspired what the current the newer Dooms are, how they are today, because you could see it's like playing Vanquish as a first person shooter. That's also one of that is also a one hit wonder. I think I'm not sure if you guys have talked about it earlier, but this is like the first person shooter version of Vanquish, and
Mm.
it's really hard to sell
Mhm.
this in a way, in a way on today's market, because we already have the new Wolfensteins,
Mhm.
the newer Dooms, because they play a little bit similar to how this plays.
Mhm.
And but do take note that this was a decade earlier than the newer stylistic first person shooters. And
Mhm.
if you like Titanfall 2, you like the gameplay of Apex Legends, they are somewhat similar to how this is presented, the way that
Yes.
it feels, the fast action,
Mhm.
the I just really recommend, if you are a first person enthusiast, do check it out. It's
Mhm.
cheap, even if it's cheap even on 360 or PlayStation 3 is mostly under 20 bucks. 20 bucks is the high end of how much you could get this for anyway. So
Mhm.
that's my quick round pick, my second quick round pick, Bulletstorm. Do check this one out if you are a
Excellent.
first person enthusiast.
Excellent choice. Excellent choice, Drew. 2 points to reply. Number one, Doom may be the godfather of the first-person shooter genre, but Wolfenstein 3D is the
Mm.
granddaddy of them all. Okay,
Oh
Wolfenstein
yeah,
3D.
yeah, yeah,
Yes,
it's a
Wolfenstein
yeah,
3D is
yeah,
the
yeah.
granddaddy of them all. Now, second point. This is also Bulletstorm. Correct me if I'm wrong. Also has DLC of Duke Nukem. I could be wrong on that. Remind me on that one, Drew. If Duke, I think Duke
I
Nukem.
think so,
Yes.
because it was re-released to have
Mhm.
the DLC.
Yes.
I forgot the name of
Mhm.
the second release of Bulletstorm, but I'm
Yeah.
sure that that has a DLC.
Yes. If I remember correctly, Duke Nukem, you want to play Duke Nukem, a better version rather than Duke Nukem
Yeah,
Forever, play Bulletstorm.
yeah.
Bulletstorm. All right, there you go. And of course, now we come to the, to the granddaddy of them all, Joe. Quick round.
All right.
What's your choice?
For this one, I am going with Rogue Galaxy for the
Mm,
PlayStation.
nice.
So okay, I'm going to toss in another game in here because it's somewhat related.
Hmm.
So when Final Fantasy VII came out, Sony saw how much of a juggernaut it was for the Japanese role playing game scene, and they wanted to come up with something similar of it, hoping it would succeed or at least somewhat would have a equal footing with Final Fantasy, the franchise. So Sony came up with Legend of Dragoon, which that was their answer to Final Fantasy VII. It's their own game, not Square, not with one. It's not. It doesn't belong with another like a third party developer.
Mm,
However, despite of what we think about Legend of Dragoon being a good game as it was, sadly, financially, it didn't reach out to Sony's expectations.
hmm.
Okay, that was the PlayStation 1. We go now to the PlayStation 2.
Hmm.
What happened? Final Fantasy X came out. Final Fantasy 12 came out. Sony still wants to have that piece of the pie. So they wanted to at least another game that would at least they're still aiming for that Final Fantasy the Final Fantasy fame of it. So they have Level 5 develop this game called Rogue Galaxy. The aim for them was if this sold over 1 million copies, then and then yep, we've done it. We we're as good as Squaresoft in making JRPGs. So
Mm.
what about what's about Rogue Galaxy? If we are talking about Star Wars, okay, this is Star Wars for the PlayStation 2, only a hair away from a lawsuit coming from LucasArts.
Okay,
If
there
I'm
you go.
going
That's
to
true.
if I'm going to summarize Rogue Galaxy, okay.
Mm.
So the game. Imagine
Wait,
if you
which
will.
Star Wars?
A very relevant question. Which Star Wars?
Well,
Which Star Wars?
well
Okay, okay. Imagine if you will. So the game follows the adventures of a young boy
Mhm.
who works in a who is a agricultural worker in a isolated desert planet he becomes involved in a galactic conflict that learns that the fate of the entire galaxy lies in his hands.
Oh, so it's The Force
Along the
Awakens. Okay, got it. Okay. Okay.
along the way, he will meet up he will meet up with a very diverse set of characters, like
Mhm.
an adoptive daughter of a certain person of a certain rank who may or may not be related to you, an
Mhm.
android that speaks with an accent, a bounty hunter, a
Mhm.
mercenary who tends to shoot first, and some aliens here and there.
Oh,
So
definitely. The Force Awakens then.
again,
Okay, got it. Okay.
this is as Star Wars as you can get. All right.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of combat, action role playing game, third person perspective. You control three characters. However, you can only control one, and then the AI controls the other two.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of aesthetics, shell shading. If you can see the footage there,
Oh.
shell shading characters in a 3D rendered environment. Oh,
Mhm.
one of the good things about this game, there are no load times. So
Mhm.
according to the developer, the goal to set the standard would be making a PS2 game that would feel as an open world without any load time. So if you're going
Mhm.
to play this game, it's very seamless. Like from one place to another, the enemies will just come up, will come at you. Even the boss characters, they don't even have like sequences. Yeah, you will have some full motion video here and there, but
Mhm.
there are no load times, which is wild for a
It is.
PlayStation game that
Mhm.
there's no loading bar whatsoever. It's pretty ambitious, but they did it here. All right.
Mhm.
The game itself, it's not your typical DVD 4, DVD 5 format. It's a
Mhm.
DVD 9 format. It's one of those games, and just like Sir Drew mentioned before on our group chat, anti-piracy. This was a very. I remember when I bought this in Hidalgo Street in Quiapo. It always
Mm.
reaching out because for some reason the copy protection of this game that they imposed was very difficult to be put on a regular DVD 9 disc. That's one of the so I only played it halfway, only because my copy of the Hidalgo version of Rogue Galaxy glitched out on the middle of the game, and I never touched it
same with my
ever since.
Tutuban version.
So even the Tutuban version doesn't work. Another thing about this game, if you played Final Fantasy 12, they my God, Sony, if not ripping off Star Wars, they're ripping off Final Fantasy. If you're going to buy with the skill system here, it reminds you of Final Fantasy 10. If
Mhm.
Legend of Dragoon reminds you of Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 7, Rogue Galaxy here will remind you of Final Fantasy 10 in terms the skill grid of Final Fantasy 10. They have their own skill grid here, but they call it differently. So what they did was you have to search different kinds of items and equipment, and then you put that on the grid. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not the grid; it's called a map. It's a skill map. Okay, that's what they call it. So you put different kinds of items in there, and then if you put certain items in combination, then it will give you some stat boost, some immunity, some resistances, some bonuses for your characters. Yeah. Um. What else about this game? Yeah. To my knowledge, the only reason why okay, let's get into it. The only reason why, despite its popularity among players, is a breath of fresh air. To be honest, with this kind of with this kind of gameplay that they did, they're aiming for 1 million copies. If that was their standard, and unfortunately they didn't got I mean 1 million copies. They didn't reach 1 million copies of this game. So yep. So just like Legend of Dragoon, guys, you will never see Sony doing a sequel of Rogue Galaxy or even Legend
I,
of Dragoon because they were
I
aiming
have
too
an
high.
important question.
Oh, you go ahead, Miss Hiro.
Are there any husbando and wife in that game? Because the one thing that's
Ah,
deterring
Ah,
me from buying that game is when I saw the cover, I didn't like the art, the character design. And then you mentioned it was made by Level 5, so now I'm so confused.
mm, yeah.
In Sir Drew, you want to answer this?
Yes, I do. Well, one of the things that you might be interested in here in this particular game is that this is one of the first games in my memory, as far as I know, that actually shows which costume you are equipping for the character. One of the first interchangeable costumes, and some of those costumes are very, very Sergio RPG approved costumes. So if
there
you're
you go.
looking for certain husbandos and waipus angle,
I
there
would say
that's your particular answer.
as far as the husbando would because as far as husbandos would be, I don't know, Jasper, the main character. Waifus would be it's
Yes.
either Lilica or Kisala. Hmm.
I
All
mean,
right.
the equipment showing on the character model sounds cool and all, but if the face,
It's a
Ah, I see. I see.
I,
Okay,
Hey,
so
I
that's
want
that's
hey,
where
hey,
that's
I
where.
hey, the
want
main
my
character's a
characters
blonde, yo.
pretty.
The main character
how
is
about
a
this one?
blonde.
I don't like his
Okay,
haircut. It looks stupid.
I mean,
okay. How about this one? I'm sure. So
gravity
that's
might work a
Kisala
little
right there.
differently in that world, Miss Hino. Gravity
Hmm.
might work a little differently.
Oh,
But
Alright.
that girl is not
um,
bad.
Mm-mm.
so that's Kisala right there, the one in the yellow dress. That's her.
Mhm.
So
Well,
that is that's your best girl right there.
That may or may
Uh,
not be related to you.
mhm. Oh, I mean, Star Wars and everything.
We have a lot of Star Wars references
Yeah,
in
well,
this
I
absolutely.
was
episode.
Yeah.
Earlier,
in this
earlier we
episode.
have the what's that? The Jedi lasso. Now we have
Mm-mm.
this
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the Jedi lasso. Oh my goodness. All right, fine. Okay.
in
Okay,
Well,
we mentioned Star Wars. So this game also has also interplanetary travels, of
yeah.
course, travels on ships,
Mm-hmm.
airships,
Mm-hmm.
and all that jazz. Yeah, it's all in there.
Okay. All
Again,
right.
not to rip off Star Wars or anything.
I mean, but Star Wars is a ripoff in itself of Hidden Fortress anyway. So yes, Rogue Galaxy for Joe, excellent choices for the speed round. And
Oh,
um,
speaking of speed round, Sir Joel, let's
mm,
do Sir Dan real quick
yes,
because he
absolutely.
also
Let's do
submitted his
that.
games as well.
Let's do that. All right.
Only 5 minutes each,
Oh,
very
sure. That
quickly.
sounds good. That sounds good. Let's do it.
Let's go with Sir Dan.
Yes.
Hello, Timeless Gamer crew. We're talking One Hit Wonders. Okay, my first pick for the One Hit Wonders is going to be a 1995 Sega Mega Drive game called Comic Zone. Now, you might be familiar with this because it's been released on a few compilation packs over the years. It was a very, very standout and very original take on the beat-em-up genre. In fact, nobody else has ever said this, so this is just my thoughts on it. But I think I'm right. To me, Comic Zone is actually a prelude to God of War. And Comic Zone's the first game I can remember that takes traditional beat-em-up gameplay and structure and then throws in some adventure elements. Now, these adventure elements are very small. They essentially boil down to you locating items and using the items at the right time but also interacting with the environment a bit. And when I play Comic Zone, it kind of reminds me. It does remind me of God of War. You know, you block pushing and game manipulation and all that type of stuff. You have to do that in Comic Zone. So this was quite mind blowing to me as a kid. It's certainly a game that I know puts a lot of people off because they approach it like a beat 'em up. Because the majority of an action, 80% of the action is beat 'em up action, but you've got to think more about what you're doing. You can't just go in smashing things up. If you hit the environment, you lose your energy. So you can't go beating your way through all the puzzles and all the all the actual thoughts challenges that are there. So it's a lovely game in that respect. It really is. And there might be other games that I don't want to claim that this did it first. If something else did it, if something else did it first, let me know. Leave comments. But I can't remember any. You know what I mean? This to me were what God of War got a lot of credit for what Comic Zone had already done. What I'd already seen done. So. As a game itself, it's a lovely game. It's a beautiful game. It's got the presentation is obviously the standout aspect of it. It's presented like you're reading through a comic book as you journey through a comic book. It's incredibly original to this day. I mean, I can't think of any games that really took this approach. I'm sure there's one or two, but I can't think of any of the games where I've played where I felt like I've gone into a comic and it is played in a comic. It also had multiple endings, which again for the time were quite quite a big deal. But it's a great game regardless. It still holds up fantastic now. It plays great. Again from an originality point of view, the combat isn't traditional beat 'em up combat. To beat your enemies, it's about directing your moves at different levels. Now, this idea had been used many times before in as early as in the 80s in games like Yor Kung Fu, but it's still an original take for how they incorporate it into the game and how they mix it in with different various elements. If you play beat 'em up from this era, this will feel so fresh to you because of all these more outlandish approaches that it takes to things. And it's got branching paths as part of that. When you're journeying through your comic, you can choose to go different directions, a bit like an old choice and consequence novel or comic that you'd play. So there's a lot to see. That's if you're retro gaming, you need to play Comic Zone to get a different take on retro games because it stands out as such an original, amazing, brilliant approach to everything that it incorporates, being ups, puzzle games, whatever it's or adventure games. Sorry, not puzzle games, adventure games. But it's a fantastic game, and I would say that one of the problems with Comic Zone, and it's not a problem for me at all, because I like these type of games. But a lot of people get put off because they say it's too hard, and it really isn't too hard. It's one of those games that it front loads its difficulty. It tells you straight away that it's not going to pull any punches. Now I like that in a game because it makes me sit up and take notice. And it's got one particular jump near the end of the first stage that I know filters a lot of people. This jump, you work your way through the first stage, and it is a tricky jump. It is one of those that if things don't quite fall right for you, you can die instantly, and then you've got to start the whole stage again. So it pisses people off, and I get that. But my response to that is, don't be a pussy, don't be a vagina. Just have a set of knackers and keep playing, for Christ's sakes, because if you do, they'll offer you lots. Each individual step is uniquely crafted. It's just a beautiful, wonderful, fantastic game. So this actual game, I've spoken to a developer, Eric Wahlberg, our friend from Sega, or used to work at Sega, he basically told us the history behind Sega in Japan. We all kind of know it, but he let on that Sega of Japan had kiboshed a load of Sega of America projects, such as Comic Zone, so they didn't get a sequel. And that's why we didn't get a sequel, which is a big shame. It's a brilliant game, and it deserves it. So check it out, because it's lasted a long time, and it will last forever, because it is timeless. Hello again, Timeless Gamer crew. Game number 2. Pull up a chair, and let me tell you about one of my favoriteest games of all time. A game that I just love to bits. Another one-hit wonder, believe it or not. It is Atomic Runner. Oh, ooh. Yes, Atomic Runner. Now, it started out in the arcades, a 1988 game, which was originally known as Chelnov. And in the arcades, it's a brilliant game. Okay, it is a fantastic game. But it got a Sega Mega Drive port in 1992. And they took this fantastic game and they, for me, made probably one of the bestest arcade ports of all time by taking everything about it and just making it a little bit better. Okay. Now I'm going to say to you, all of you, who I'm talking to out there, you've not played Atomic Runner, okay? And I ask why not. If you have, good on you. I'm proud on you. If you haven't, why haven't you? Because it's just such a, again, unique and finely crafted game. Now it's a shoot 'em up, essentially, okay? It's a shoot 'em up. But what they've done with the mechanics is instead of you being a spaceship with an 8-way free-scrolling way to move about, this horizontal shooter is platform based, so you are literally running along Sonic style, and you're bouncing on people's heads and doing all kind of athletics and shaking your bogey atomic stuff as you're blasting the living shinola at the bad guys. And these bad guys are called Deatharians. I mean, if Deatharians don't tell you what a badass game this is, then nothing will. Because, you know, if you're fighting a Deatharian, imagine someone saying we've been invaded by Deatharians. You know you're fucked if you're getting invaded by them bad boys. So you need the Atomic Runner on the case. And the Atomic Runner is in town and blasting away and jumping and diving and doing all this kind of stuff. And it's just a magic game. It's zen-like. You play this and you get into that flow of blasting, jumping, ducking, diving, flying, thriving, boomeranging, bad boying. It just flows some amazing. And this game I can play and play and play and buzz and buzz and buzz. It is tits massive, man. I love it. I absolutely love it to bits. And I will, you know, it's my type of game. So yes, it's a bit hard. What I will say, it's definitely got a entry hurdle with the control scheme. A lot of people bounce straight off this because the default controls on the Mega Drive version, which is obviously the best version to play, are a bit knackered. Really, I always change the default controls to Type 2-1. And I use an Xbox controller to play it because it fits way better. You know, if you played it at first and you're all fingers and thumbs with it, we all were. You know, it's just not set up intuitively. I always advise go on to that second line of controls to 1 to 2 to 3. They're the ones I know most people use. I use 2-1. And play with it that way. And if you can with an Xbox controller, it just works a lot better. But once you're in your zen with it, it flows incredibly. And it's just got everything right. You know, the bosses in this game are that beautiful type of boss that, you know, I just love these boss patterns. Some of these boss patterns are so freaking cheeky. I mean, the third level boss, it can be a nightmare if you're not on it. It can be a nightmare. It can be a game breaker. It can just be like, it ruins your run. But it's so good and satisfying when you beat him and kick his ass. And some of the latter bosses as well, they're so clever with how you have to play it. You know, I love that originality. I haven't played so many games from this era, you know, and sat and analysed them. You get a lot of. You're surprised how many boss patterns you get repeated. You know what I mean? It's like you look at Cuphead, the modern shooter, and that rips a lot of its boss patterns from games like Contra Hard Corps. And you know, some of these areas they don't rip them, but I've got so much respect for developers who invented original boss patterns, and some of them here are just you know, there's that lovely line between baiting you and kicking your ass and giving you enough space just to beat them, and you having to think outside the box to beat them. And the stages are like that too. The stages, you know, the way you have to move and think and act. You know, the balance between Twitch play and thought, memorization, reaction is just superb. And you know, it's just luscious. And the fucking soundtrack, man, boom! It rocks, man. The beats. Oh god, it's ooh yeah. So that's my recommendation. Second recommendation: keep your gaming timeless.
Oh my
Alright.
goodness! If there
I'm
is
not
one
sure
thing,
if I'm not sure if Sir Dan is off his meds or on his meds.
I could say one thing about Dan. He is an amazing showman. Every single description that he has of every game that he does, it is top notch. We're talking like I've never really had an interest in side scrolling shoot 'em ups and things like that. But the way that he described Atomic Runner, I am going to
Oh,
play it now because of
Comic
description. All
Zone
right.
and Atomic Runner for the
Yes,
Sega Mega
Comic Zone
Drive.
and Atomic Runner. Yes, definitely. I played Comic Zone. Haven't had the chance to play much of Atomic Runner. I think I've given it one or two runs in the arcade, but definitely, Dan, because of you, I that old debt that you had about about that we talked about. Me having a bone to pick with you. Check out our previous episodes in our in our podcast archives. That you have, it's erased now because of this description that you have, and of course, sage advice from Dan. You know, please nobody take any offense in what Dan said, but I am going to repeat it. Please don't be a vagina. All right, there you go.
And if for all of you guys who are wondering why those games didn't get any sequel, well, Sega of Japan.
Sega of
That's why.
Japan. Enough said. Okay, there you go.
Enough said.
All
Uh,
right, I think that is the show. Joe,
that's
wrap
the
it up for
show.
us. Mhm.
Let's close it in. Thank you all so much for staying all this long. Another 3 hour episode. God damn it. Okay.
Mhm.
Our famous plugs. Let's start off with Miss Hino.
Yes.
Where can they find you?
So I have a pussy, by the way.
Oh yes, you do. It's a pretty hairy one too. Okay. Anyway.
I wish I can pet it.
You guys can find
There
me
you go.
at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. All Pinotor, as you can see on my name on the screen, and hope to interact and talk with you guys there. Again, thank you for having me, and I do apologize for my attendance.
No, nothing to apologize for. We show up when we can, however we can, and we always bring our enjoyment. Thank you very much, Miss Ina. All right, next person, John.
That's one fine pussy there.
Yeah,
How about Sir
absolutely.
Drew?
Anyway, thank you again for indulging me, indulging my ramblings on the show. Anyway, you can find me at Geek Out Gaijin both on Facebook and on YouTube. And you could also check out my Tagalog pages, which is Halo Halo Hobby and Boodle Technique on TikTok. And that's it. I hope to see you guys and interact with you on my pages.
All right. How about Miss I? Do you have any pets?
No, I don't used to. So you can catch me on twitch.tv as a reporter. I am trying to redesign my layout, so I'm still in some testing stream. So maybe you can catch me one time or another. I also have my YouTube where all my previous streams are uploaded, so you can catch me on those platforms.
All right. Thank you for that, Miss I. How about Sir DDM?
Yes,
Dude,
one.
you're gonna have JDM. You're gonna have to send me that backdrop. I need it. Okay, go ahead.
Me too.
Support DRM.
Non-DRM. There you go.
Non-DRM.
Non-DRM.
Rock
Come on.
DRM.
Support DRM free. games.
Yeah.
And 123 Go Retro. You can find me on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Fortunately, I don't stream regularly right now, but I still post some relevant game. I post gaming related content on my pages, and check out Timeless Gamer Show website. I do the design, very simple design. I'm going for the 90s retro 90s website development,
Absolutely.
all in HTML. And also thank you so much for Jomenten or Jomarot for hosting the website for us.
Mhm.
Design our guest book joke.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
Right.
attracting corporate sponsors.
Yes, absolutely.
Possibly.
I know, manifesting it. Hopefully. There you go.
Don't rest more.
Oh, don't press
DRM.
Okay, fine.
How about Sir Joe?
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, everybody who decided to stick around, not just at the beginning of the show, but all the way to the very end. We are looking at games that had one release or one good release that had no sequels or sequels that lived up to the hype. So for those of you who did not experience this live, catch us on our recordings in our archives in Timeless Gamers on YouTube and on your local podcast channels. You can download the episodes, enjoy them. But to get the full experience of why we're talking about Pussy right now, you have to watch the video portion because you are going to be enjoying the very best of Timeless Gamers show. And to JDM's point, we are doing the website. We are trying to shoot for when the internet was much more interesting. When during the 90s, it was a wild frontier. There was so much to be discovered. Not like nowadays, where you just hang around Facebook, where you just hang around Reddit, all these other websites. You don't even know where you go anymore. But yes, in JDM's case, he is building Timeless Gamer Show website to reflect the more interesting times of the internet. You can find me at twitch.tv streaming and kick.com streaming. Recently, last night, Joe caught my stream of Lego Marvel Avengers. It was based on the Age of Ultron movie. Having a good time with it, and no hashtag FUFB, and enjoy the rest of your week. And tomorrow we are going to be having a reaction stream. You guys might be interested on the Xbox showcase, but
Oh fuck! I
on
forgot
Joe.
about that.
There you go.
All right. Speaking of internet, we need to make sure that the internet is running. Otherwise,
Mm,
PLDT will shut us down.
yeah,
So
that's true.
let's do some ads.
Yes.
Do you like playing video games? Do you like reading about history? Do you like learning about video game history? Then you should give yourself the gift of owning some video game history books from BitMap. Since 2014, BitMap Books have published numerous colorful and start your own online live streams, webinars, podcasts, online classes, and virtual presentations with Streamyard. By using Streamyard's user-friendly interface, you can also do simultaneous multi-streaming if you have accounts to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and other platforms. If live streaming is not your style, video and audio recordings are also available, especially with those who have variable and inconsistent internet connections. The finished output will still come out as clear and well articulated exactly as you originally intended. You can also customize the appearance of your presentation, like green screen effects, facial touch-ups to smoothen out those facial blemishes, multiple cameras for multiple guests joining in the discussion, your own wallpaper on the background, adding your own logo as a watermark, sharing videos from your own computer or other website for added visual aids with or without audio, uploading your own background music if you wish to set the mood when talking, and lots more. Before you can enjoy all of the wonderful full features of StreamYard, you can start with a 14-day free trial by using our link. Not only that you are supporting the Timeless Gamer Show, but you can see it for yourself how easy it is using StreamYard. Do you like playing video games? Do you like reading about history? Do you like learning about video game history? Then you should give yourself the gift of owning some video game history books from BitMap. Since 2014, BitMap Books have published numerous colorful and well-detailed hardbound books about video games ranging from the different video game consoles of old and the various video game genres that will surely pique the interest of its core fanbase. BitMap's team of global video game journalists, players, and illustrators have produced numerous award-winning titles that celebrate the software, hardware, and developers that laid down the foundations for the billion-dollar video game industry we all know and love today. International shipping is also available with careful and considerate packaging from BitMap Books. If you don't want to take my word for it, then you can believe the people, almost 10,000 satisfied customers who submitted their glowing written reviews and video reviews after receiving their books from BitMap. By ordering your first BitMap book using our link, you will also be supporting the Timeless Gamers Show in spreading our love of video games and their rich history. All right, thank you for that. Sino man yun? Um, okay, so and another one would be here. So Back to the Culture, Retromancy Incorporated presents Back to the Culture Part 2 is now ongoing at the Promenade Mall, basement 2 of Green Hills, around right besides Collective Base. So it's just started today, this Saturday, and we are there until tomorrow, June 9, from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. So if you are into retro video games, modern video games, trading card games, anime-related stuff, and toys, trading card games, all that shit, go to the Back to the Culture Part 2, right there, Promenade Mall, Basement 2, Green Hills, Collective Base, tomorrow, June 9, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow, Sunday.
Mhm. Wonderful, wonderful.
And that's the show, guys. And on behalf of Sir Dan and Sir Viraj of the Sega Mega Masters, who is also also a podcast about anything Sega, Mega Drive, and the Master System, check their podcast out. Sir Ray of Studio.ph, who can't be here. He's just there, lazying around the hotel room. And
Yeah.
Master J of Shuffle Emporium, and um, he's currently manning the booth right there at Back to the Culture,
Mhm.
and Sir Jep of Retro Unlimited,
Mm.
and yep, and thank you all so much, Miss Hinotora and Sir Drew. Oh, I just noticed we got two people from JRPG Philippines right here on the show. Thank you all, and thank you both for being here, Sir JDM, Miss Ansley Porter, and Sir Joel, and to all of you guys here in the chat, Sir Dan's there, Christopher Abestado. Thank you all so much. Hello Hobby. And that's it. We will see you again next time. And as always, our games in our bodies may grow out of date, but our gaming experiences will forever remain.
Timeless. All right. See it back to the culture from our baul to yours. See you guys soon. Bye.